Okay.
Baby,
Hi.
you know what time it
Oh,
is.
please tell me.
It's Studio Johnny Q time.
Yeah.
That means it is time to drop your nerd drawers, baby.
Oh, yes.
I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm sure it's
It means
sexy.
nakedness is what it means, Smoothie. All right. Hail and well met, fellow time travelers. Let me get to a camera angle that is conducive to something other than...
You are very light on YouTube. FYI.
Yeah, okay. I'm moving to my desk now.
Yeah.
So, hail and well met, fellow time travelers. Johnny Q, the aloof goof of Studio Johnny Q. We are here and virtually with Randy. Randy, say hello to the good peoples. And we are going to be doing our twice a week switch up of the stream edition through distraction, where we try to add value by distracting you from the monotony of your day to day. So, with that being said, I have to give you a little look of today's shirt. So, remember the 5th of November. All right, and Randy, you can see
nice.
on today's pre-stream I moved over our thing, although it's not doing so hot with this camera in particular, but I realized that my game frame was never ever re-seen, so I was like, it's too nice of an item not to be seen on the screen, so that's what I was working on as we were prepping. Let me move to the desk and grab a quick sip of my beverage. Randy, I'm always telling people not to bury the lead, so I'm going to do that and get right to our titular moment for today. Today's inspiration. I'll be over here at the other computer, so I'll try to talk a little louder while I'm over here. But I am going to show you what inspired today's item. And bear with me. How you doing today, Randy? You doing all right?
Good. How about yourself, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been an emotionally charged week. You know, I had a friend that had a real tough week, and things are looking better. But it was sometimes you forget. It's like I told Carrie. It's like when you love people, you're gonna hurt. And she's like, no, don't say that. And I'm like, have you ever loved somebody and you didn't hurt because of it? I don't think I have.
Yeah,
so,
you gotta take the ups with the downs.
Right. And it's like, I'm not.
It's just like life.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't love people. That's actually, I don't know why you would think that that's what I'm saying, but I'm not saying don't love people. I'm just saying that when you love people, you're going to hurt. And not because of malice, not because of the cake
love
song.
hurts, but
yeah.
The pains are worth the highs are worth the lows.
Yeah, you know, it's like the thing that I think about, especially when dealing with like pets that die. That actually, I can do this. That grief is the price that we pay for all of those memories. And it helps me. Like, grief is the currency that we spend for those memories, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to think about it that way. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't love, and that you shouldn't grieve. It's just that's part and parcel, right? Some say you can't have one without the other. If you only had one, then it would be meaningless. Me and Taters was talking about was talking about Star Trek movies yesterday, and I believe that's the kind of one of the first times that I kind of got associated with that. I think it's the fifth one where they quote unquote meet God, and and he offers to take Kirk's pain
Hashtag
away.
spoilers.
Well, no, I'm done with that actually. If you ain't seen that movie, that's on you. I'm not worried about spoiling things that are older than.
Well, there's chillins out there. They've never seen it before. You gotta give them.
So I can't talk about anything that kids ain't seen.
Induct the new generation into the.
Yeah, well, that's on you.
So what happens is.
Yeah, so I don't care about your children's, and yeah, if you didn't realize as I'm talking about this, and if this is something that's dear to you, then you can just turn the volume down for a couple seconds. But there's a quote there he talks where I think he offers to take Kirk's pain away, and he's like, "I need my pain. Without pain, you don't have blah 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 blah." And I know maybe you can find the proper quote so we can properly spoil this rather than half-ass spoiling it. But I think that was the first time that I became familiar with that concept. But that being said,
well, I typed in Kirk I, and it immediately filled in "need my pain."
Really? Wow, that's funny. Okay, so I thought I need a little bit of frivolity today, and I saw an Instagram post that I wish to share, and I'm going to forward that to Discord and then save it from Discord. I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. I'll just email it to myself. All right. I have too many damn emails right now because of the work situation. I had to create like 2 more emails, and it's just like, I forget which email I'm in. So we do that. We create an email to ourselves too. I want to thank Tater, and we're been lucky enough to have J2 join us because of a zombie virus scare that luckily is no zombie virus. He doesn't have to worry about his girlfriend suddenly wanting to start eating brains, or if so, it has nothing to do with the viral infections. I'm sending this to myself. Sorry, I should have done this beforehand.
Okay, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Kirk. This is according to quotes.net. Kirk, damn it, Bones, you're a doctor. You know that pain and guilt can't be taken away with a wave of a magic wand. They're the things we carry with us, the things that make us who we are. If we lose them, we lose ourselves. I don't want my pain taken away. I need.
Yeah, and I think that
And he's a masochist or sadist.
Okay, maybe
That's that unspoken part of that quote.
that I need my pain. However else will I achieve orgasm? What, Kirk? Well, when you have sex with as many alien women as I have, you need something to kick it up a notch.
Get that Rigelian herp.
Right, the Rigelian herp, which is just glitter. Now you're making me think about carnival spunk. All right, well, sorry for everybody who's come in and didn't realize this was going to be a saucy, but hey, it said your mama, so you get what you get. All right, here, I just emailed myself, hopefully. What else? And what I appreciated, I think, about this image that I'm getting ready to show you was that it was, for me, a little bit of a puzzle. And let me move it here. Let me crop this. Got enough that you can see who it's from. I believe this was from Caverns and Creatures on Instagram. And I think that's good. Copy. And I try to do a screen share here, Randy. There you go. I think you can see this. So I will explain this once you can see it, in case it's for those.
Carrie!
We have Carrie with us today?
Yep. Just chatting in YouTube. Said, yeah, this is not what I thought I would hear. I said, LOL, you should know better.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this what you do in the basement all the time as you talk about carnival spunk? Well, yeah, that and paint minis, but mostly the carnival spunk. So I saw this yesterday.
It's like 60-40.
I saw this earlier this week, and it was just I couldn't really share it with my peer group because of some of the things that were going on. But now I feel like we could share it and have a bit of frivolity. So this picture here says me. Here's conservatives. Here's liberals. The Lakers, a horse, the hobo that lives next to the dumpster, a 7-Eleven clerk who didn't have change for $5, every pizza delivery guy, 4 dudes at once, and the mailman. And then they're all pointing their signs in here, and it says, "Have given it to your mom."
Wow. They went all in on that one.
Yeah. And what I loved about it, it was like me and liberals and conservatives is like, why are you funking up my RPG, Instagram thread with more of your political talk? And it was like, oh no, it was just a funny your mom joke. So. And I mentioned this before on the stream. I think my funniest your mom thing I've ever saw was, I don't know that women have to suffer through this, but men do. That's for some reason, men, when they're in bathrooms, want to write on walls. Apparently, it's something, I guess, in their genes or something. I don't understand it. Same thing. It's like guys who spit the urinals when they're, you're using them. I don't fully understand that, but I don't know. And with the one thing that I saw, it was like, your mom is probably a very nice person. And I was like, now that's a joke. Thank you. Good old misdirection. All right. So
it's like marking your territory in a way or something.
Is that what you think it is?
I guess.
There's, one of the things that you read is like, I don't know what it is about the smell in this spot that makes people feel so eloquent or something like that.
It really brings out the inner poet.
Yeah. And I'm sure it was probably written in a way that rhymed, because there's that. And then, what's funny too is if there's a urinal that you would frequent, like, our local watering hole, like I remember that's
a urinal you would frequent. Oh, yeah. Lord.
For normal reasons, not, well, I mean, for whatever reasons, I guess. I don't know why you would frequent said urinals, but let me move back to the desk. You'll see sometimes this restroom graffiti will change over time. I like it when someone says your mama and somebody feels the need to correct their grandma, because it's like, you just said you are mama, not somebody's mama. There's stuff like that.
Takes a red pen to it. You got an English teacher come in, takes a red pen to the graffiti. That's awesome.
Yeah. And or you'll see where somebody will say something and they'll add a little something that'll change the context to it. I think one of my favorite things in the bathroom, and we'll switch it up here to a different angle. Let's see here, we'll move this back. Do a swappy. Is when they take the handicap sign thing and they make it look like it's Professor X.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite. The guy in the wheelchair, and they make him look like Professor X. That's pretty groovy. Talk about handy capable. But yeah. All right. So yeah, you didn't want to bury the lead. Wanted to start with our titular moment right off the bat, and we got your mama's stuff right out of the way. So I noticed that I've silenced our chat beforehand. Everybody was chatting up a storm, and now nobody has anything to say. So. Good form. Chirp, 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 chirp. So yeah, with that, let's talk about some miniatures. So Randy, we didn't have our Tuesday show, so I wanted to just kind of show you what we've been working on here in the studio during this time.
Make it feel better.
What's that?
I put a little something in.
Well, thank you
Twitch
for
chat
that.
for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You're
At least I know it's not broken. I was better off thinking, well, maybe it's just broken. Maybe everybody's laughing and I just don't see it. But now I know that's not the case. So yeah, thank you for removing all doubt.
It's better to know.
It is.
Just rip that Band-Aid right off.
It is. Yep. That's what I said right before in that RPG session, that I did that action that ended up resulting in the death of what we were calling Baby Yoda. It's like I said, I debated it. And I'm like, well, truth's better than ignorance. And then I killed him. Well, I didn't kill him, but. And then somebody, you're like, well, you didn't do it, you know. But I saw somebody who did a recap of the notes, and they had their note from me, from my character, which is Quixotic. He's a drunk monk. They actually have the way of the drunken monk is an actual D&D path that you can take now. So his name is Quixotic, and he's a furbolg, which is like a kind of a giant creature. And but yeah, he's a drunken monk.
Nice.
When you stand before God, he'll ask you about your choices on why you did what you did to Baby Yoda. Yeah, add that as a quote, please, somebody. That's one that we need to savor. Because people will be like, what? What did you do to Baby Yoda? I was trying to help him along the path of enlightenment and trying not to hide the transactions of the humans, because that seemed worse. But he was just a baby.
It's just a little inadvertent accidental mind melding.
Well, and the thing was, too, I was like, this is... because what happened, and no spoilers, because you guys can't play this session. And shout out to DM Scotty, who's running this session. I get to participate in this because he's doing a 3-part session for some of his, and he's doing some one-shots as well for some of his Patreon supporters. So this was the second round that he's done, and I was able to get in on it, and I'm having a real good time. It's too many thoughts at once. I can't remember. It'll come back to me. But yeah, somebody had in their notes that from that session that Quixotic was the one who killed Baby Yoda. And I'm like, oh man, I'm the guy that killed Baby Yoda. Oh yeah, I was talking about that. Beforehand, I knew that it was like, I think this is like when Jessica is pregnant and she drinks the dune water and she creates the abomination. Hopefully that's cryptic enough that it's not a spoiler for people, because you won't remember it. But I was like, I hope I'm not making the abomination. And it was just like, oh, I wish I would have made the abomination. That would have been a preferable outcome to what I just did. But then I don't know, too. It's like, if you as a baby could see the universe is infinite, maybe you would transcend. So maybe he just transcended. I don't know. But
he's somewhere going, I am.
And thanks for adding the quote. Thanks for adding that quote, Tater. He's like, thank God I didn't have to go through all that. But I'm getting some glitches, I think, and I don't know if it's the camera or if it's the stream or whatever.
Yeah, seeing something flashing on the
some
YouTube
artifacts. Feed. So I might change the camera angle. Let's go with our M50 and see if we're seeing the same thing. But so a couple things here that we've been working on. We started off working on these Avenger guys here in the background. But, I'm doing some quality testing on here now. Just drop and make sure that everything's fine. Yeah, okay, they're still good. And if we switch to our M50. Yeah, the ones that are now broken, those. Who needs an arm when an arm can be broken? I think that's what Tina Turner said. Do your own fact writing. Because what's love got to do with it? What's limbs got to do with it? Got to do with it. All right. So we started working on these. We airbrushed them. And this is part of the Disney Marvel set that you can pick up for around $10-15 at most places. And I was like, man, I really like these, but I, thought that they needed an upgrade on the paint job. So we airbrushed them with primer. We did some undercoats with airbrush, and then we put some base coats on largely using Vallejo game inks. And then the last thing that we had done was put black wash on them. And this is an earlier stage than I would normally start to use washes, but I thought it would help me to define some of the spaces and kind of visualize it a little bit better. Private Necromancer, I think, was the song. Yeah, I'm glad that's I'm your private necro for money, raise dead if you want me to do something like that, I think. Hopefully that doesn't get I didn't infringe on somebody's intellectual properties there. However, so that's what we've been working on, but then just needed to change it up a little bit. These guys were getting kind of intricate, but I want to deep dive into these a little bit more and take a look at our progress. But then we switched it up and started working on these, and we went to Target this week, and I happened to run up and down the toy aisles, and I do running because if you stay in the toy aisle too long, you start to feel like an adult who's hanging out at a kid's playground, right? And everybody just thinks you're a pedo. And it's like, you get to pretend that you're buying these toys for your kids. What? I got kids. Yeah, whatever, nerd. Go buy your Batman. So anyways, I saw these two Batmen, and I was like, man, these could use paint upgrades. So I've been working on these. Pedometers, yeah. Podiatrists. And so we've got two of them. Yes, that's what I'll do. If anybody starts to look at me funny, it's like, hey, I'm trying to find out a... Yeah, I'm sure that this is not a... And it's like, I know, it's like when I'm in the Star Wars, there's like, when I'm in the Star Wars aisle, they know. I mean, you know. It's like, I would like to pretend I'm buying this for a kid or for somebody, but this is for me.
That's a good point, Tater. I wonder how many children's first and second and third birthday gifts were actually for their fathers. Just bought it for themselves, really.
Well, that's the first good reason I've heard about somebody having children, Randy. I never understood it until now. Thanks. I mean, still not enough that I would want to have one of those things, but
yeah, that's the reason most people have children.
Well, it's the only good reason I've heard so far.
To buy themselves toys for the first couple years. No.
So anyway, so we started working on these guys, and I'm really pleased with the way that these are coming out, because these have gotten a total, we totally primed these. I've been using this metallic airbrush paint here. Vallejo Arctic Blue. I'm really in love with this paint. It's like a metallic blue paint, and it's like I want everything now to be metallic blue. But so we painted that. We started doing some flesh tones, some basic flesh tone areas here that will get toned down a little bit when we do some washes. We repainted the eyeballs, and then started using some flat black on some areas here to try to create some definition. And I'm really pleased with the way these are coming along. And what I want to do with these is, we've been talking about the first 50 on our Twitch stream, and if you have not yet followed us, please do. Please be part of that first 50. It's our dirty little secret that we're going to love the first 50 a little bit better than everybody else, but we won't tell anybody. But you'll know if you're part of it. And but to try to encourage people, especially from the from just casual Twitch viewers and also from the Instagram, that I want to do a giveaway. So I think I'm going to give away at least one of these when we hit 50. On 50 followers. So
nice.
Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna do is make it so that I'm trying to figure out the particulars, but I think what we'll do is that when we're at 50, we'll take a look at the people that are following us, and then if they're following us also on Instagram, then they can qualify. So to qualify, you have to follow us on Instagram, Studio Johnny Q, and you have to follow us on Twitch. So, and
you know what you should do? You should make it so that his mouth and pupils and possibly irises can be changed out, so you can make little different mouth shapes and stuff that have a different expression.
Well, that is almost something I could do. I mean, like a potato head kind of thing. That is a fun idea. But I thought you were going to say, you know, it'd be cool is if you could actually make him blink and make the mouth move.
Make him
blink and his mouth move, and put a little speaker in so he says, "I'm Batman." Because you know, you usually
that's obviously the next part of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, Randy, but then you're just like, well, I could do that, but maybe in a future one. I think we'll do more, but that is a fun idea.
You just put a little video screen in there for the mouth and the eyes, so they can do all kinds of different animations and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
get on that, bro.
Sadly, I kind of thought they were cool as is, but apparently not. So
thanks. Very cool as is.
Thank you for the perspective, as always. So yeah, I'm pleased with the way that these are coming out. I'm going to continue to do some more work on them. Yeah, yesterday I spent most of the time working on adding the kind of the black areas to this, and I'm thinking about the cape in particular is a good place that we can add some contrast and maybe making the cape lighter. So I might mask a lot of this off and then paint this again, or I don't know. You know, we make it up as we go along, just like the Doctor. So we got that, and did 2 of them. So,
and then you can switch the cape out for a real cape and have a little fan in the base that's blowing it in the wind, and then you can.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Messing with you.
Here, okay. So here's some other things that you can tell me how they could be better. Here we go.
Oh, you can give them a little laser pen that shoots a bat symbol on the wall, so he's like shining his own bat symbol.
Yeah, and then I can maybe put some AI in him so that when he actually sees it, that he'll have like an audio response. So if he sees the bat signal, you know, he can say, "To the bat cave, Robin."
He's excited by his own bat signal that he's projected himself.
Well, he says, you know, he's Robin to the bat cave or something. You know what would be cool is if you could make him move kind of like a Chucky doll, and then he could just like go up and down the toilet aisle so that he could recruit a kid who he could put in deathly situations. But you know, it's okay because he's a sidekick, right? Yeah. There probably is. Tater's asking if Batman Beyond suit was something like that. Although I think the Batman Beyond suit has a red. I think his is black with red. But I'm assuming that this probably was inspired on something. Let me take a look at the box here and see what it called it. Let's switch it up here. And thanks for everybody who's checking us out today. We appreciate you. So Batman 314, Batman 80 years. Man, Batman's been around 80 years. So they're calling it 1997, Batman 1997. That was a good year for Batman, 97. Was you
said King Creepster.
Thanks for that. There's somebody on YouTube that I was watching, and I had it frozen, and you know how you can take pretty much anybody and freeze them, you know, and it be, you know, like if you catch somebody mid sneeze or mid yawn, you're like, my gosh, my face actually looks like that. It's like, no, not perceivably, only when you freeze it. So this guy, you know, it was a non-flattering thing, and Carrie's awesome about leaving me notes. Yeah, see, it did it with the ceiling cam above as well. I probably need to do a reboot, but I don't want to. We'll just have to, I think, deal with it for today. So apologies. And so she left me a note on the monitor, and it said King Creepster. This pointed to this like dude's face, and so I may have that here somewhere. I think I have it up on my board somewhere, my inspiration board, King Creepster. And so I started referring to myself as King Creepster, but you're not King Creepster, she tells me. Let me see that. You're not King Creepster. Let me make sure I nailed it, because you know I've been criticized of not nailing the voice right. You're not King Creepster. Does that sound like her, Randy? No. It's extra fun when I know she's listening. All right. So yeah, it's 1997 Batman is what they're calling it, and he was all the raised areas. He's kind of was bluish, blue blackish with all the kind of the raised bits were silvered on the original. And you can check out our Instagram for the post of the original of him. I've been taking some progress photos. So
Carrie said you are when you stock the toy aisle.
well, yeah. You know, you can't make orange juice without squeezing oranges. I don't know what that means, but it sounds horrible. I'm gonna be called King. If I'm gonna be called King Creepster, then I'm gonna embrace it.
Yep, perfect imitation of my voice. Well done.
I nailed it. I nailed it, like I always do.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Just like all those people nailed that dude's mom.
Wow.
All right, that's what we call coming full circle. You can insert your own jokes there. All right.
Well, oh wow. I have a joke, but I'm not gonna say it. It's too much for me. I exceeded my bounds.
Hey-yo! Zing! All right. Sorry, it's been a rough week, and it's nice waking up in the morning and having a little sunnier outlook on life, so I'm embracing it. I'm going with it. I am going with it. All right, so let's go to our M50 here, and we'll take a look at some of these. Now, you may remember, we'll save him for last. The one that's most unimpressive, I think, at this point. And let me do some camera angles here. Yeah, this will be good. Oh, we do this. Can we get our tasty little thing in the background? Oh, yeah. Let me see here. I'm going to elevate this even further. Little Zelda fairy in the background. All right, here, let's just get us some light. What are you laughing at? Uh-oh.
I just text you.
I'm glad it was you. I thought maybe it was Carrie. I was like, uh-oh. Getting reprimanded. There's a joke. Yeah. Lazy Susan. Is that your mom's name or just what she does? Well, I don't know.
No, that's
What? What? All right. So this is the one that's the most uninteresting at this point. Is kind of this guy. He's just kind of got some different metals, but I think that when he gets done, he'll be fun because with him being metal, I think we're gonna rust him up. I'll be here till Thursday. Try the veal. Hey, be sure to remember to tip your waiters. I remember the first time I saw Tap. It's at a place called the Electric Banana. Don't try to find it, it's no longer there. That's just for our friend Lucifer. All right, so we have him. Not that interesting. We have Ms. Marvel, and my joke is that it's Ms. Marvel because she's been recently divorced. Because that's everybody. The only people I've ever known who used Ms. was recently divorced women folk. I envious. Thank you for that. Spinal. We're making Spinal Tap references. So, I was talking about Ms. Marvel. I said that she must be recently divorced because that's the only people that I've never known that's used the title Ms. Same thing. It's like if you see somebody use
some teachers used to use it.
All right.
Some of my teachers used to use it.
Yeah, and they were recently
Just
divorced.
as a like a it's none of your business sort of.
Yeah.
To be a miss, but I'm not married.
Yeah, feminists as a feminist sort of thing. It's like when you see you also see if people that use their initials for their names instead of their names. I think there's a 75% chance that it's a lady. That's not a lady. That's a man, baby. Sorry. All right. All of our references are timely. That was one of my favorite tweets that I did, and I think I did like a hashtag girl is guy in real life. There are no girls on the internet. That is hilarious. One of my favorite tweets that I did back when tweets were first a thing were, and the hashtag for it was timely reference was if a deck of cards is referred to as the devil's prayer book, does that make Deal a Meal the devil's cookbook? Hashtag timely reference.
Carrie said the dude at the Nissan dealership called her that.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful to be with somebody whose appropriate title is doctor, and you get to see him be referred to as that they assume that you're a nurse. When you tell them you work at the hospital, and they're like, "Oh, so you're a nurse? You're getting warmer." Jackass. I was like, I just wanted to laugh. I was like, dude, she is so not buying a car from you. Is this the door we're supposed to go out? All right. All right. So Ms. Marvel.
I still like it when she was talking to somebody that was talking down to her as if she didn't know anything about math and said that he had a math degree. She was like, thinking about what's on the wall behind her.
When she actually
had a couple masters on the wall, kind of point to that direction. I don't know what you're
Yeah, I think it was like, and you know, dudes are the worst, right? Being one, it's okay, I can say it because I am one. Is that they're just the worst, and it was like, okay, you know, are you certain about these numbers? Because I went to college and I have a master's in accounting. And she's like, oh, you have a master's in accounting. You see that on the wall? The smaller one next to the bigger one? That's my master's degree. The other one is the PhD. And that is not who she is, but that's what that dude deserved. So,
yeah, totally.
But, muggles, I tell you, it's tough. So I'm happy with Ms. Marvel. No matter what her marital status is, or what she identifies as, whatever her gender identification is, I'm cool with all of it. I think she's looking groovy. And
That's a Carrie story that I like. It's one where she was I like the oil change place. And the guy
that one is
with her car, and she's like, no.
Yeah. So yeah, because
I'm not who you think I am.
Because Carrie knows.
I actually know what you're saying, and you're totally wrong.
Carrie knows way more about cars than I do, and which isn't hard, but she actually knows a lot about cars, and so she went. And it sounds like one of those things where you're like, no, that stuff doesn't really happen, and but it happens. Mm-hmm. And she went for an oil change. You know how they're always trying to upsell you about, you know, your air filter and things like that. And they even got out to where, you know, they'll say, hey, you know, here, I'm showing you your air filter, blah blah blah, and they're like, and I'm going to paraphrase the story and I'll get some of the details wrong, but I'm going to be about 90% accurate on at least the important parts. And they came out and they're like, yeah, you can see that, you know, the air filter here is really bad and blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, that would be really horrible if that was my air filter, but my air filter looks like that. And that's out of this car. That's like out of like a 98 Bonneville.
Yeah.
And like 2 other people in the store left because of what they just did. Like, are you kidding me? Did you really just do that? No, I don't care what you do. I'm leaving right now. Just take my car off the racks. We're leaving. That's what somebody else said. That was just like an observer. It's like, Jesus, man. Yep, true
Yeah,
stories.
especially those type of businesses, the quick turnarounds sort of things, where they get their money from upselling you on crap,
Yeah, it's like the
and
insurance at Best Buy.
by what corners they cut. So like oil change places, and
Screws, putting
there's
screws back.
there's a comedian called Joe Lycett. He has a show called Joe Lycett's Got Your Back, where he goes and he kind of undercover investigates these places like that. Had one in particular where he did rental car insurance and stuff like that. He's done a couple about rental car agencies actually, but the one about the insurance was particularly telling in that he had somebody that got a job there and was working on the inside, and the training that they were giving the guy, they were just like blatantly like, yeah, I just totally upsold that idiot. He already had the insurance and I told him he didn't have it. And yeah, that's my commission. Thanks, idiot. And they were joking about like how, not even joking, they were saying how happy they were when people came in that were just exhausted and had a bad day from their flights being delayed and all that stuff, and they just didn't have any energy to fight anything. They're like, cha-ching, cha-ching for me. Just telling them total lies to get the money.
That is just sad.
Yep.
And it's really sad. Randy, you're going to make me cry now. I've given up on humanity.
Look on the brighter side of it. I've got more stories from documentaries I just saw that frightened the hell out of me about, oh, yeah, that is actually real life. Not cool. We're so sheltered. We take our lives for granted so much. You don't think some of these things actually happen. Yep. Scary places in the world. Luckily, we do not live in them.
No, because I live, I don't know what state y'all live in. My state is denial.
I think you got cut off there.
Oh, that's, if you got to repeat a punchline, it isn't worth it. All right. I'm really happy with
on
this
a brighter note, I also saw a documentary on, actually it was a Seeker episode, YouTube Seeker
Mm-hmm. I know you've been a big fan
about the International Space Station. Apparently the United States portion of that is like a national laboratory. So anybody can submit, I can't think of the right word, I can't think of the right word right now, but you can submit an idea, a proposal, there we go. Submit a proposal to them for research. And the only caveat is that it has to be of benefit to humans. And they'll consider it.
Can we submit?
So like you
what
now could write a proposal.
Yeah. So could we suggest one? Let me put this. Could we suggest one where what is it about the smell of human feces that makes men want to become poets?
That makes men want to what?
Become poets?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose if you word it properly,
they unfortunately they would have to consider it, and then they could deny it. But.
And that might be on the quick deny pile. I'm not sure. They may have too many other things on the list that get accepted.
And the one thing
that went down the rankings.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
One of the things they're working on is, and I can't remember exactly what they're called, but they're basically 3D printing, like human organs, on a chip. So they're, what's the word for like an analog, something that will exemplify something. So like in this case, they have a computer chip, it's 3D printed with like pathways that are lined with human cells, whatever system they're trying to test. So like if it be liver cells or whatever, those cells are lining those pathways, and it creates a replica, a functional replica for their testing purposes of that human organ. So they have different chips that represent these different human organs, and they're working toward having a full human organism, so like the entire body on a chip, basically, for testing purposes. So there's a lot of this stuff, pretty much anything, any science if it happens in space, if it happens in a zero gravity environment, can have way different connotations as opposed to trying to do that same testing on Earth.
Yeah, I've heard
And
that.
3D printing biologic is one of those things that seems to work better in space. Because right now there's a certain, they can only go like, I forget what it is, 3 millimeters, 3 inches or something like that before they encounter issues with blood pathway generation and all that stuff on Earth. And they don't have those same restrictions in space. But the computer chip, the body on a computer chip was cool for testing purposes because we'll no longer have to do any animal testing, and it's more accurate and hopefully faster as well, and just has a ton of benefits along the.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's. Huh. Trying to figure out what Phil. Nothing of consequence. Just some quality testing, quality assurance going on in the background. Gravity is a harsh mistress.
Ball bearings.
Gravity's like the moon. It's a harsh mistress. Well, Randy, you know what? I think that you're making everything a little too highbrow for today.
Oh, take it down a notch.
So, I want to bring it back to the gutter. I just was looking on my watch here, and my Best Buy email came in, and the title of it is, "You know what Mom loves? We do."
Huh.
So full circle. Like a lazy Susan. Go full circle like a lazy Susan. All right.
Serendipity.
Now, did you say this was the Seeker that you were seeing all that stuff about the 0G?
What about it?
0G. Did you say it was the Seeker that you were watching? You were watching that on?
Yeah, Seeker. It's a channel on
the YouTubes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one's good. There's quite a few good ones. There's some that look good off the bat, but then you find out like, oh yeah, this is total shit.
You find out that they're actually about neo-Nazis and
yeah,
flat Earth conspiracy or flat Earthers.
I remember the name. There's a couple new ones that I keep getting in my feed now because of other ones I watch. It's like people who watch this also watch this, and it's a bullshit one.
Oh yeah.
Which is just because it's presented. Some of them are presented really well, like the voice narration in it, the visuals, everything is done really well. But it's total crap. So you got to be really careful. Don't believe everything. Don't believe everything you hear.
Do your own fact finding.
Do your own fact finding. But Seeker has been really good. They're top notch. I haven't seen anything that they've done that's made me go, no, I don't think so. That sounds like bullcrap.
You sent me that video yesterday that was like Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, the 12 stages of like quarantine or something like that.
Yeah, 10 stages of quarantine according to Gandalf or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that was really funny and done well. It was a little long, but it was funny.
Yeah.
And
there were parts of it where it was almost like the person, maybe English wasn't their first language or something, so there was a little stuff that was like, I think you meant this, but that's,
also
we're going, that's fine.
Yeah,
but other than that, overall it was funny.
I was wondering, maybe they're Australian or something too, because it was like I didn't recognize the references, some of the references that they were using, like for stores and stuff like that. So, but yeah,
they were British. Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to get. I've been watching a lot of British stuff, so I know a lot of the stuff that he mentioned, just like stores.
Yeah, okay.
We don't have over here. I recognize what they were talking about.
Okay. And let's see here. Let me do a reset. Of our M50. But yeah, but the one where he was like, he's criticizing him and he's like, "Oh, you anti-vaxxing flat earther."
Yeah.
And it really made me chuckle. Because you're just
not expecting. It's interesting how often those two go together as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, hey, you got your chocolate and my peanut butter. All right. Let me see here. Turn this back on.
What are some of the other good channels? It's Okay to Be Smart. Smarter Every Day. I think Vsauce is a good one, but his
Mhm.
voice gets annoying to me a lot. It's almost as if he's putting on his accent sometimes, and it grates my nerves a bit. But content's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's who actually we saw with Adam Savage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
I still got that ping pong ball somewhere.
Yeah, me too. It's funny. All right. So, Randy, here we can say we previously, when we were working on Captain here, I had said that he kind of, to me, looked like he was starting to look a little bit like an aging drag queen, rather than what you would prototypically think of Captain. So right now, I think that he doesn't. Now, I think Tater may have had a different opinion, but I think he's looking a little less like that. So I feel like we're heading in the right direction. And then also, we like to say here that you got to make things look ugly before you make them look good. And like, you can take a look here at the back. This is ugly. But these are base coats, and I'm trying really hard not to put efforts into stuff that you're going to end up working over. So it was about blocking out large areas rather than, looking tight. And then, here you go, Randy. You got your buns of vibranium there.
I was just thinking, look at those cheeks.
Yeah.
He bounced a quarter off of that.
It's like, what? I don't know. He's like breaking walnuts or something, man. There's some clenching going on. But yeah. So, I think
It's looking good.
Yeah. I think
the figure, not the butt. Well, the butt too.
Well,
I meant the figure in general.
The one I'm really happy with is the Hulk, from the aspect of the airbrushing, because when we paint it upside down with the cool colors, and always like when you can take a look and it's like, oh, it looks like it's like blue, and then you take a look and it's like, oh no, he's all green, and then you look at him here and he's like, oh no, he's got a lot going on there. So I really haven't done anything other than put wash on him, the black wash on him, and I blocked out his eyes and his hair and his pants, which we have deduced are probably the most magical and mystical thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is his amazing pants. Which maybe, I think that Tater brought up something yesterday about something potentially being like a Venom symbiote, and maybe that's what his pants are. Maybe Bruce Banner's pants are actually an alien symbiote like Venom.
His pants are a living entity.
Yes. And so they can grow and shrink, right? I've been watching...
Either that or they're something to do with Green Lantern powers.
Oh, yeah. It's projection. It's the Emperor's New Clothes. You don't like my purple pants? Right now we're looking at Hulk's junk. No, we're not. We're looking at purple pants. I can see them. You can't see them? I'm clearly looking at purple pants. Because nobody could be that well endowed.
But they don't work on everybody.
Men refuse to acknowledge that the Hulk could be that big, so so they see purple pants because their mind can't comprehend anything else. But yeah, we've been watching. Carrie turned me on to the TV version of What We Do in the Shadows, and me and you had watched the movie, and that's done by Jermaine of the Flock of the Conchords. Yeah, Flock of the Conchords. Flight of the Conchords. And and the Watusi guy. I'm sorry, I butcher his name every time. Yeah, him.
Tahiki Watiki, or
yeah, the extremely talented gentleman whose name I always fail to pronounce correctly. And he was in that, and but so they did it.
Tzatziki sauce.
Yeah. No, man, I don't want euros. No, I want euros. That's funny. He so they did a TV show, and they're the executive producers of it, and it is extremely funny. And there was
Taika Waititi, something like that.
Yeah. there was a thing thinking about Hulk's pants because they can transform into bats, and so she was. They have somebody who they had recently churned and was trying to understand their vampire powers, and so she's like, they started to take her clothes off, and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, well, don't I have to take my clothes off before I turn into bats? I mean, how does that work? The bat clothes, what? And they're like, huh. And they just got paused for a second. They're like, don't worry about it. Don't know. You can just leave your clothes on. It's fine. And so I think it's kind of like that. Best not to overthink it. There we go. So I think with these guys, the next step is going to be to probably look at some areas like here on Captain. His
Maybe it is like that. They are they're not really there, but they're there because they think they're there. Like the thing where when people die, their spirits come back and they're just kind of stuck as they were when they died, because they don't realize they're dead and just imagine themselves as they were. So maybe it's that.
Maybe
projection. They don't realize it.
It's like in the Matrix, right? Like it's you appear as you think you are. You know, that's why Neo doesn't have the socket in the back of his neck. It's his avatar in the Matrix is as he thinks it should be.
It has nothing to do with saving money on makeup. But
damn, Randy. What up, Dream Crusher? So I'm kind of having a hard time being able to. Let's zoom in as far as we can. There we go. There's some spots like here at the top of this red stripe here. Residual self-image. Thanks, Tater.
There you go.
He just recently watched The Matrix.
Nice.
Not that he didn't know that already. I'm just saying. But some areas like here on the top here, it's look at them abs. I could do some laundry on them abs. No. Like it needs touched up. So I think
washboard.
I think man, I didn't know them beverages came in 12-pack. I don't know. Sorry. I'm not really gay for Captain America. You would not know about the stream. I'm nothing against anybody who is, but
he's on the list.
Just appreciative. What? A man can't appreciate another man. Just saying, Brad Pitt is a handsome man. There's something about that somewhere. Brad Pitt was a handsome man. All right. So I think touching up some of those areas is probably the next step for these. And then the next step for these guys. Whoa. Large. So, a little Matrix fun fact, which I love me some Matrix fun facts. From Tater says, originally it was planned that the humans are being farmed for processing power and now batteries, but they thought people wouldn't understand what processing would mean, so they went with batteries instead. Huh.
Processing power is in.
So as in like, you know how
power as in they were using their brains as
so
extensions of the.
Yeah, you know how like they're saying if you can churn your, you can let your computer while it's having off cycles help work on the coronavirus cure or cryptocurrency cracking and things like that. I think that's what he's talking about, like a CPU. So yeah, that would be interesting, and it would make more sense. So I like that. Thanks for sharing that. That is a neat little tidbit.
That is cool.
What is the book when that guy comes and he gives him the disc and he opens it up and the name of the book is Simulacra and Simulation?
What are you talking about? Sorry?
I'm trying to think of Neo in the beginning when he wakes up and it goes like knock knock and the computer tells him to follow the white rabbit. And that guy wants some illegal stuff and he gives it to him. It's a fake book that he opens up and the title of that book is called Simulacra and simulation, I think. But I'm probably wrong about that. I know Kung Fu. The best line ever in a movie. I know Kung Fu. You think that's air you're breathing right now? That's our new favorite thing to say. Carrie says that all to me all the time. Whenever we have a moment. You think that's air you're breathing right now? Great movie. I need to watch that again. But I think, so with this guy, all these dark areas are going to get toned down and or maybe even scratched up or something. You think that's how you're breathing right now?
There's a lot of good lines.
Yeah, there is no spoon.
Yep, simulacra. It says simulacra and simulation.
Yeah, that's okay. That's I couldn't remember if the second one was simulation. Simulacra and simulation.
Written by the philosopher Jean Baudrillard, focuses on the subject of reality as a simulation.
Yeah, that's really cool. Also from that scene. Yeah, it's called mescaline. The only way to fly. You ever have that feeling like you're awake and still dreaming? Yeah, it's called mescaline. Only way to fly. I think I've watched that movie a couple times. So, enough show and tell. Let's see, what time do we have here? Mental health.
According to Wikipedia, hold on a second. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Simulacra and Simulation is a 1981 philosophical treatise by the sociologist Jean Baudrillard.
Treatise, please.
In which the author seeks to examine the relationships between reality, symbols, and society, in particular, the significations and symbolism of culture and media involved in constructing an understanding of shared existence. Simulacra are copies that depict things that either had no original, or that no longer have an original. Simulation is the limitation of the operation of a real-world process over time.
Interesting. Tater added, what's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you have still broken the vase if I hadn't said anything? That is a good one. You're going to feel right as rain. I like you, Neo. I really do. You seem like a good kid. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I like drunken boxing. Pulling back to the drunken monk. The drunken boxing is one of the styles that you see that he's learning when they're downloading all that stuff into his brain. I know Kung Fu. That fight scene with him and Morpheus is so good. It's such a classic. All right, so let me zoom out a little bit here so we can get out of the...
I think probably the most repeated ones are a glitch in the Matrix referring to deja vu.
Deja vu.
And here's the other one.
I still get the heebie-jeebies.
Oh, the there is no spoon. That one. You hear that one a lot.
Yeah. I know, it's whatever I think of whenever I see a little cancer kid with his head shaved. I just want him to go up there. So could you tell me there is no spoon?
He's like, oh great, this again.
Man,
All right, but it's gonna cost you.
isn't
You
it
need to
bad
steal
enough
something
that,
from
you know, it's like, dude, this is about making my wish, not yours. Ooh, too soon?
I'm gonna need a family pack of Snickers and
Snickers. So, Randy, would it be all right if we have our mental health minute?
sure.
I'm just trying to zoom out a little bit. Oh, before we do the mental health minute, there's one of my favorite things, you know, is we talk about like music and the difference of when you listen to music and you listen to music with headphones, or you listen to, you know, you listen on decent speakers, but then if you listen to music also with headphones, like you'll hear things that you never heard before. And especially a lot of the music that I grew up to was pumping from a Chevette tape player that had the windows rolled down because it didn't have an air conditioning. So there's a lot of fidelity that's gotten lost in music that I've heard. And and so I remember watching The Matrix with headphones one time. And when Mr. Anderson, when Elron is grilling Neo in that first scene, when, you know, he's appearing as like a police officer and he catches him at work, and he's like, you know, he gives him the file and he's like, wants him to, like, you know, stop doing what he's doing, blah blah blah, and Neo's like, oh wow, that sounds like a really good deal, but how about I give you the finger? And Elron goes, he gives like a good old fashioned what's his face, Mad Max, Tom Hardy. Gives him a Tom Hardy. He's like, and I'd never noticed that before, but yeah, you'll hear it when he's like, how about I give you the finger? And when he gives him the finger, he goes, That's really good. Weaving. Yeah, Hugo Weaving. Yeah, Red Skull. That's good. And then another thing that I never heard until I was listening with headphones is The Sounds of Science, Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique, my all-time favorite albums. The beginning of it, they're playing ping pong apparently, because you can hear a ping pong ball going. I never knew that until you listen to it with headphones. But anyways, the mental health minute. So again, I'm going to zoom out here. Let's go.
Mine is do not underestimate the power of frivolity and silliness.
Yes, that's yours is way better than
Celebrate.
Mine. Yeah. Yeah, I think that silliness and frivolity and hijinks and hilarity and all that, I think is undervalued. And it's something that we put a high premium on here at Studio Q. The Q stands for shenanigans here at Studio Q. Let's see here.
Laughter really is one of the best medicines.
It is. I mean, I don't know how well it would do at removing your spleen if it ruptured, but good golly, it is. It does the heart good for certain. For certain. One of my favorite.
Well, in fairness, I don't know how any medication would do much good if your spleen.
Well, that's true. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I can
laugh it off. Laugh it off. Take a lap and laugh it off.
Rub some dirt on it. Walk it off. Make sure you're laughing.
Just a ruptured spleen. Get back in there.
I know that I've been watching a lot of this Scientology stuff, and I had forgotten about. I've been watching these Scientology documentaries, and I've forgotten that that Tom Cruise actually went on camera bitching about Brooke Shields, saying that she was suffering from postpartum depression, and it was just like,
I was talking to you about that last time.
I've forgotten about that. It just didn't register, I think, until I saw it. And I remember some of what you were talking about. Is like, I just totally had forgotten that. And it's just like, he's on camera and he's just like, do you know the history of psychology? I do. And it was just like, just saying that because psychologists at one time had used electroshock therapy, which they currently still do use electroshock therapy in some cases, but not like they used to. It's not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. but they
Yeah, I don't think they use it like you have to. I don't think they use it on anybody like against
their
obviously not
will.
against their
Yeah,
will,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah,
without their permission,
they don't
kind
use
of
it for
thing.
punishment. I don't think.
Yeah.
But just because that at one time doctors thought that you drilled holes, you did tryptophaning, right? Uh,
Hmm.
just
Uh,
because of that doesn't mean that you did that all medicine is quackery. But it was like, okay. But man, he was adamant. And what's
tryptophan.
really what yeah. Uh, tryptophan, right? You eat too much turkey and you get holes bored in your head.
You get
Isn't
holes
that?
in your skull.
Yeah, that's the way it works. Check to your own
It
fact.
lets the demons out.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because that's where the demons they originate in the belly of the beast, which is most people don't realize that's actually turkey. It's turkey is the belly of the beast. Again, most things we say here are patently false. But
Like the country? Oh,
yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, and that's why Turkey isn't Greasy, is because Greece is a separate country. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Hmm. Yeah. All not true. Um, here, this is a place right here in his eye that's really bothering me that I think that we might start with
Healing crystals
fixing.
is all you need,
Yes. Healing crystals. Ah, yes.
Johnson says.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
Pyramid
true.
power.
Yeah. I was going to say that mine was this week. I got a little bit off my meds by accident, and and it was just like I think I can go one day and not realize it, but on day two I start to feel something, and it's so weird. And we talk about this, and but it's it's why we keep having this, is to keep talking about it over and over, and to help normalize some of it. Is that it's so weird about something that removes a sensation. It's just like if we take aspirin when we have a headache, right? But what if you took aspirin every day so that you didn't get headaches? And people say, well, what's it do? And it's like, well, it doesn't make me have headaches. Well, maybe you're just never getting headaches and you're just taking this, you know what I mean? And it'd be like, oh, all right. But with this stuff, it's like, yeah, it's like you take it and you don't feel anything. It doesn't make you feel euphoria. It makes you not feel some negative things. And when you get off of it, I find that when I do that by accident, and I don't try to do it deliberately, it's just that you just sometimes you forget in the hustle and the bustle of a morning or whatever. And day two, you're like, oh yeah, this is what I don't want to be feeling right now. I got that. Okay, thanks. And it's just a kind of a reminder of it. And I don't know, there's something too about it that it reminds me too about that negative stigma that's just so hard to get away from. Even if no matter how positive a healthy outlook you try to have on it, sometimes you just
Stigma against taking medication, or
yeah, and
health,
that it's like
mental health in general, or
yeah, both. I think
all
both,
of it.
but I mean mainly just that stigma of like, oh, your brain is broken, but it's not that your brain is broken. It's not that you have a condition. It's that you're mentally weak, And there's something about that when you get off of it, it's I don't know that I don't have good words, I guess, to say it. I'm just spitting from the top of the dome here, but I brought up some feelings about that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess the thought is, it's like kind of like being an alcoholic. They say that you're never not an alcoholic. You're an alcoholic that's in recovery, and it's that sort of thing. It's like, I don't know. I guess that's some of that stigma that I have. I still have that stigma. No matter how enlightened I want to be, no matter how mentally woke I want to be, I'm still actually under the yoke of it. Huh. You think you're woke, but you're really under the yoke.
You got to write that on the bathroom wall, Mr. Poet.
Yeah, when I Junkie, thanks for that. I appreciate that, Johnson, for bringing me back down. But that's that there's just still that stigma that I have. I still have that stigma about myself, and yeah, that it's just like I don't know that I'm ever going to get to a place to where I'm enlightened enough to not feel that way. I can only hope to be enlightened enough to know that that it's inaccurate and that it is appropriate for me to constantly be vigilant towards that feeling and to try to do the best that I can to counteract it. I think is
what is it specifically that you're talking about that you feel like you're
just that, you know, that
I missed something.
That it's a weakness, that you know, some of these mental
Okay.
health issues, it's just a weakness. It's just because you're weak. It's because you're mentally
So
weak.
taking that you are relying on the medication and that is a weakness, or
Well, I think that can be
specifically?
about it, but I don't have an ABC sort of thought of like I stopped taking medicine, and because I stopped taking medicine, these are kind of two separate things. I guess I'm talking about, and I'm kind of mashing them together, perhaps. But during the course of this, there was two things. One, it was just like, oh yeah, I forget that, you know, the sensation. Sometimes you just forget the sensation. And I don't know if you probably can speak well to this, right? It's like, I don't experience depression as much as I do anxiety. But when I've had a few depressive fits, it's like you forget what it's like, right? And when you're not feeling it, you look at it one
Mine's
way.
the opposite.
But when you're in
Mine's
it,
more depression based than anxiety.
yeah, and it's like when you're experiencing that, you're like, ooh, yeah, man, you forget what it is. And so that's one of the parts is that, you know, just being off this medicine and some of the feelings, and it's like even biologically, you know, now that I wear like a Fitbit watch, it tells me, and it's just like, it was one of the things that clicked me in. It was like, why is my heart beating like 100 beats a minute and I'm not doing anything? I was like, oh yeah. And it was just one of the first things that I noticed, that my average heart rate dropped about 10-15 points, 10-15 beats per minute.
I think a lot of people, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say uneducated, more likely, people.
I hate those anti-vaccine flat earthers. Sorry, go ahead.
Still think that that it's just all in your head, that you're just that you're just being weak. That this isn't. There's no physical effects for this. This is just you being a whiny little bitch or something.
Sissy.
And that's not the case. I think it's important to reference that everyone is an individual. Everyone has an individual reaction to different medications or whatever, different causes and triggers and whatever for their different issues. I think it's probably makes sense that it's a mixture, that whatever you're experiencing is a mixture of different things. You know, environmental, nurture, nature, everything. Have elements that add into it. There are definitely biological and brain chemistry issues that need to be addressed with medications to try to balance those out and allow people to live normal lives. Also, there are other people that deal with, you know, maybe it's not a brain chemistry issue per se, but for some other reason, whatever, they may be experiencing
brain geometry,
severe acute issues with depression or whatever, and certain medications, and again, that's going to be, you know, individualized for that person, what works best for them. Consult with your doctor and get on the right thing if that's the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of it. There's no reason to have that stigma against it anymore. We're much more enlightened about those things now and realize that, oh yeah, this is a benefit.
Yeah.
Can be necessary and at least helpful in various circumstances. You should certainly not be ashamed of it. I just used to, it made me feel like crap having to take a medication. Like I didn't like taking pills. I don't like taking pills, but I don't mind it now. I've come to terms with like, okay, yes, I need this medication so I don't feel like killing myself every day, basically. And they need to understand that it's not just me being like, oh, poor me, I haven't gotten what I want. I want to die. You know, that kind of, it's not, oh, boo-hoo. It's intrusive thoughts that you're like, this isn't what I want. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But it still encroaches in there against your will anyway. And it's nagging.
Yeah.
Pervasive. And medication helps.
Pervasive and debilitating. And
But
that's
it's also important to reference that, you know, you need to also work on the other elements of that, and don't
yes,
just rely on the medication.
yes,
The medication is a tool to be used in conjunction with other tools to help you try to get out of that funk, and learn how to deal with it more efficiently, more effectively through other means.
yeah. If there's
And you may or not,
good.
go ahead. I
It's
was just saying you may or may not be able to get off of it at some point, depending on how you deal with that in your own situations. But that's very much a personal thing and a by case basis.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was part of it. Was like, you think with taking the meds and me not taking the meds, it's like you think maybe I've achieved something, maybe and I think that's the pitfall that I personally fall into, is you think that I've arrived, I've achieved, I've become enlightened, I've become bigger than this, and I'm not bigger than it. And there's a I think it is just something with the biology, and also you can say environmental factors and things like that. But it's just like, if I remove myself out of stressful situations and I do these things, I'm not cured. I'm never going to be in a state, I don't believe, of being cured. It's about managing. It's a situation that you manage, and that the medicines help you manage. And it's not the other part of that is that, and I think this is what you're alluding to as well, is that just because you're taking these things, if there are triggers that you have in your life, you still need to deal with those, right? You got things that are causing anxiety in your life. Just having these pills don't mean that you don't deal with these things. That these things don't need dealt with, and then that's a responsibility as well that you have, is for making sure that you are being diligent and dealing with those things. You can't just deal with them through pharmacology. They require insight and introspection and personal growth and blah blah blah, all those other things.
Possibly just exposure therapy. For some of it.
I don't endorse your raincoat in the park treatment, Randy, of exposure. That's going to get you arrested.
Not that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's something else.
What do you mean by exposure therapy for people that aren't in the know?
So there's one way to think about it is, so you're taking the medication. If you're just relying on that alone, then that is keeping you, that can be keeping you from feeling these negative stimulus, or having a reaction to those negative stimulus, what you've associated as a negative stimulus, whatever that may be. So the medication is blocking that from bothering you, however it's going about that, depending on the medication. But if that's all you're relying on, then you don't develop or learn any other way to overcome that. So you're, in that sense, dependent upon the medication. So if you come off of that medication at any point, you've not done anything else to learn how to deal with that situation. So it's important to, like I said, do the self-work and stuff, reviewing stuff internally, but also exposure therapy can help, where if you are uncomfortable in social situations, then you get on the medication to help you deal with that. And while you're on that medication to help mitigate the bad feelings, you slowly introduce yourself to those situations that you're uncomfortable, whether it just be like being in a crowd, start there.
Yeah.
Just slowly get comfortable exposing yourselves to being in a crowd. Now, this is a little odd at this time with coronavirus and social distancing, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Use common sense.
Yep. I'm feeling you on that. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, those things can like, it's not a replacement. I mean, I've been in times where, I felt depression and anxiety to a point to where I couldn't mentally overcome it. I couldn't talk myself down, and those things, when that medication helps me be in a spot to where I can use mental facilities to try to help deal with things, deal with stress, put myself in situations where I just didn't feel like I absolutely couldn't be around other people, right? And like you're saying, it's like with these things now it puts you in a spot to where you can, it squelches some of that feedback to where you can put yourself in a spot to where you're able to try to challenge yourself and to grow and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
and again, back to the stigmatism part of it is like, I believe there are some people who think that it is just you're being a little whiny piece of crap. That's how they think about it. And it's, I just want to reiterate that's not the case. With what we're talking about, at least, that is not the case. It is an actual physical thing that you have to fight against. Like, this isn't what you want. You're aware of it, and you're trying to overcome it, but it is intrusively affecting against your will. And to the point where sometimes you might not be able to get out of bed, even though you're struggling with that internally, saying, please get the hell out of bed. Do something. Please get up. And your body just is not allowing that to happen for whatever reason. And that obviously seems to point to a biological chemical imbalance or something. I'm not a doctor. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yep. And
it's not just, oh, poor me. It's, I want to get out of bed. I need to get out of bed. I'm trying to get out of bed, but I can't.
Yeah. And, one of my favorite words is the term hubris. And it was a word that I wasn't very familiar with until, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years ago. And it's kind of the way that I think about hubris is that it's this arrogance and pride that you have about arrogance and pride. And I tend to think about it, when you think about something and it's like, it's this, and I'm probably using it wrong. Computer, define hubris.
Excessive pride or self-confidence.
Hubris is usually defined as excessive pride or self-confidence, arrogance.
Yeah. And it's this, yeah. So I think you see that. I think it's hubris to think that the realm of your experiences are the realm of everybody else's experiences. That the depth of what you've experienced, whether your highs and your lows, are exactly everybody else's experiences. That's hubris. It's to think that I've been sad before, so I understand what sad is. How would you know what somebody else experiences? Because you are a human, that you understand what
somebody else's experience can be worse than yours.
Yeah. I feel pain, so I know what pain is. Have you ever had a gallstone attack? Have you ever passed a kidney stone? You may not fully know what the full range of pain is, the depths of pain, and even what different people have different pain tolerances and things like that, right? And it's just hubris to think that it reminds me similarly to like the hubris that I think of, that I've heard people say these terms, and it's that like gays can't be born that way. What? What
is it now?
That homosexuals can't be born that way, right?
Oh.
And it was just like, how arrogant of you to be able to say that. How could you remotely be qualified to make a comment like that?
Yeah.
And it's ludicrous too, because
sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure. Thank you.
That's the proper answer.
Yes,
Alexa. Well done.
It's like, and then there's also this hypocrisy of it, and that it's like, so you chose your sexuality? You had homosexual feelings that you chose you chose to disregard? You chose to be hetero? Yeah. No, you didn't? Oh, so why would you presume somebody else's sexuality is any different? If your sexuality is not a choice, then why is somebody else's sexuality a choice? And it's just like, but that's hubris. It's a thing that we see, and it comes from I think it directly comes from, you know, what we talked about, the insecurity that is the engine that drives people, you know, actions and behaviors and thoughts. And it's, you know, it's, you don't want to deal with how ignorant, none of us do. We don't want to accept how ignorant we truly are. And we want to feel like we know things, we have the answers for things. And I think that's what tends to make us be hubristic. But
yeah,
I digress.
That's a good point too, Tater. Is school bullying? Yeah, you chose to be targeted. You chose to be bullied.
I had
people that believe that you actually do. Like, that's your fault. You should have been normal.
Yeah,
you were acting out. You're trying to get attention. Really?
Yeah, it's that you're a sadist or a masochist or whatever. Yeah, I guess it'd be a sadist, right? No, masochistic. That you're masochistic, and that you're choosing to punish yourself because you know that deep down it's wrong. I had some people that were close to me that were talking about transgender issues, and I thought that and I don't generally try to change people's minds about things because I don't feel like you get anywhere. But as you know, I kind of brought up that point. It's like, do you realize what the suicide rate is for transgender people? And even just like, not even just transgender, but people who are like transvestites, you know, cross-dressers and things like that. It's like the suicide rates statistically are like 10 times greater. Do your own fact finding, but I'm pretty certain that that's in line with some actual facts. The suicide rates for these populations are extremely disproportionate. You know,
there's an interesting study too, because I'm imagining people seeing that and still being like, "Oh, that doesn't have any correlation. That's just blah blah blah," or "That's because they're already blah blah blah." There's no biological basis for that being connected. But there was a study that I heard that was talking about like ablatio penis, or is that correct? Where when a child is born and it can be unclear what sex they are, or there's an accident during circumcision. Whatever happens, basically the doctor is deciding what sex that child is.
Yeah.
They're making a decision and biologically doing something to make that the case.
Yes.
People who have had that happen, the doctors used to say, you know, keep this a secret from your child and whatever, and don't let them know. Well, those people would grow up and
don't let them know. Don't let them know I cut off their penis, because they're going to be pissed when they find out. I don't want them knowing I did that. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, please.
There was a study done that said that people that had that happen to them, that were in that situation, had a higher rate of gender identity issues and of suicide based on those issues.
Yeah.
Which would seem to indicate that there is a biological process connection to those things.
Yeah, and another thing is amongst the information about like about suicide.
Do your own fact finding.
Yeah, do your own fact finding on all this, but my understanding is that when you look at, not only are the suicide rates disproportionate for these groups, but also violent crimes against them, including murder, is extremely disproportionate. And you know, and in some countries they're so backwards about these things that it's, you know, accepted, but not even in those places. Even in America, the crimes against, you know, some of these fractionalized demographics are crazy disproportionate. And it's like, again, it's like, yeah, you would choose that. You would choose to be that type of scorn. And it's like, that's, again, it's hubris to think, well, somebody needs this attention. And, you know, you take a look at,
yeah, and hey, there is a small percentage of them that do, maybe. Yeah. I'm allowing for that possibility, but I'll tell you right now, if it is a very small fraction indeed.
And it's like, you know, I'm not, I don't know what the answer is or what the truth is on it, but I'm not certain that that Bruce Jenner has done any favors for the transgender community. I don't know how they view him. I don't know whether they view him as a champion for their cause or not. But I think that some people look at somebody who is extremely influent and can, do this and get put on the cover of magazines, and they think, oh, this is somebody that wanted attention, and look, they got attention, and so on and so forth. And it's like, that is not Bruce Jenner's experience. I can positively tell you is not everybody's experience, just because they don't have the wealth and the attention and the influence that this person does. So
well, Bruce Jenner didn't need to become transgender to get attention. He already had. He could have had all the attention he wanted without doing that. He specifically stated that he didn't want to be in the limelight, but felt like it was that he had an obligation, in a way, a duty to.
You said duty.
Speak out on these things. And
yeah, and and again, I don't know. I'm not saying that Bruce did this for attention or didn't do it for attention, but I do believe that there are some people that think that, and I do believe people, based on comments that I've heard, and people that think that, that kids in particular, by telling children that this is an option, that now you're allowing them to just do this just to get attention. And sure, maybe there are some people that do that, I think that, there's some people that do the same thing with, being gay, that they think that makes them special or unique, and that's what they have a feeling to be. And I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. It totally seems reasonable that can exist. But to say that is indicative of everybody that is doing these things is horrible. And the amount of people that are doing it, it does you nothing to treat other humans with respect. It costs you nothing. I'm amazed that that to be nice to somebody costs you not 1 cent, and yet some motherfuckers are still too cheap to pay that price. That's the way that I feel about that.
And you feeling like somebody else doesn't deserve your respect it says much more about you than it does about them. Yeah,
and I guess the thing is too is that you want to be truly fair, that, there's a reason why these people have these thoughts as well. We don't know the experiences that I don't cotton to the term necessarily homophobia and things like that. I think it's an easy way to lump other people as well. But if people do have homophobia, there's probably reasons why they have homophobia, and I guess it's upon us to try to
it depends on the individual. There are some that have, direct, physical history with something that happened that may make them feel that way. But a lot of it is just ignorance.
Yeah.
Just the way they were brought up to believe a certain thing, and they're dogmatically, I think of the right word I'm looking for. I'll say viciously. That's not what I'm really going for, but it fits well enough. Defending that stance.
Yeah, and it's, yeah. There's something else I wanted to say about it, but I guess there's lots of things that I want to say about it. And it's,
you mentioned something. I'm trying to bring it up a notch here.
Yeah, so go ahead.
You mentioned something about roller coasters, I think, or something that made me think about a roller coaster anyway, and it reminded me that I had recently heard about roller coasters as therapy. Oh, okay. I know what it was. You mentioned a gallbladder stone. So kidney stones, I think, there is a study saying that riding a roller coaster can help you pass kidneys.
Huh.
And also now, since I was looking for that, I'm seeing that there's an idea that you might be able to use them to help fight anxiety as well. So that'd be exposure therapy.
Yeah, no, and I could see that.
Type of anxiety.
Yeah, fear of heights. Fear of heights. It's I guess that's or behavioralism.
Specifically. Yeah. But that's really interesting that they're using it as a therapy to help pass kidney stone.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's a fear of mine, is getting kidney stones. I can remember my brother, and for those that know my brother, that we always talk about, half the things that he says are lies. He's one of the best. He's the best natured liar I've ever met, and we love him, but you never know what he's saying is true. But he claims that when he was there was a year that he didn't live with us because he actually attended a private school and a private singing school, and he claims that he had a kidney stone and or something similar, and he describes the sensation of what it was like to discharge a solid is what the term that he used, and it frightens me. It kind of reminds me of if you've ever seen Seinfeld when Kramer has to pass a kidney stone. And there's a scream that he makes, I think, off camera, and it's just like that's the scream that goes in my head every time I think about that.
I heard something the other day that said that it is, and this is coming from women, it's verified by women, so it's not just a sexist comment, saying that, and I'm pretty sure they were talking about kidney stones, passing kidney stones is more painful than childbirth, which is frightening.
So props up to all of our kidney stone passers.
Yeah.
That's it's a thing I just can't think about. Anything
again, we need a t-shirt that says this. It's your own fact finding. That's
yes.
Our mantra.
If we ever get a t-shirt.
I do not blindly believe that is the case, but it was presented in a fashion by people which I believe to be true. But I still,
yes,
I'm sensitive to something.
Randy, one of the things that I love about you, and there's many things that I love about you, is that you and I can sit down and that I can have zero concern about us talking for 2 hours. And I have no idea necessarily where that conversation is going to go. That I know I can sit down and maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 things in my head that are seeds to talk about, and that I will feel fully satisfied with the conversation that we have. I really appreciate that about you. I appreciate that about you. I appreciate that about you and all the closest people that we have that's been on our channel. We don't have a lot of people that's been watching us so far. I don't think we've found our audience necessarily, but the people that are here, Tater and Johnson, that you guys are extremely easy to talk to. And I was mentioning yesterday to Tater about that quote that I think is attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. Maybe it was Eleanor Rigby who actually said it. That said that that small minds talk about people, mediocre minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. And I definitely think that I appreciate that you are always willing to talk about ideas more than people and events. And I appreciate that about you and about Ducey and about Tater. So thank you for that. Oh, and also I wanted to pass along what I thought was a compliment that Tater had said about you yesterday, that we were talking about Mind Walk, and he said Randy would be a good person, because I mentioned that we had watched it again, for our movie thing, and he mentioned that he thought that you would be a good person for that movie and having a conversation with that movie, watching that movie with. So
which one?
Mind Walk. And there's no way to take that, I think, other than it being a compliment. So I wanted to share that, whether he wanted you to know it or not. But anyways,
that's cool.
Tater said that I think I remember reading that cluster headaches was more painful than kidney stones and giving birth. I don't know what he meant it as an insult, so don't. Yeah.
Well, fuck you. I'm gonna go eat some fish sticks. Damn it.
Potato. Boil them, smash them, stick them in a stew. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, headaches, migraines are no joke.
Yeah, I don't know what a cluster headache. What's a cluster headache? Let me ask the computer. Hold on. I love Qbot. I'm really glad that the Qbot it's one of my favorite things I've learned about this. Is I tried Earl Grey once, and it just seems so pedestrian. That would be Shadow. Thank you for that. Computer, what are cluster headaches?
A cluster headache is a rare, very painful headache that strikes many times during a period of time called a cluster. Cluster headaches cause severe pain around the eye on one side of the head. A cluster period usually lasts for weeks or months. It's followed by a long time without any headaches. A headache-free period can last for months or even years until another cluster begins. Medications can prevent and treat cluster headaches.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about. I think you were starting to allude to this about
It makes me
migraines,
sick in my
right?
stomach just hearing about it.
Yeah, and it's like, I find I take umbrage to people who banter that term migraine. I have a headache, I got a migraine, and it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm a person who has been diagnosed with migraines, and I count myself as being having very low level migraines, right? And
Yeah.
and so, but
You get the color and the light and the dimming and
yeah,
tunneling
it
sort of thing.
scared me to death, because this is when I was first starting to deal with some of my anxiety issues, and my anxiety, one of the big triggers for me is physical symptoms. It's like
Yeah.
those things really, it's that fear of the unknown. It's, I gotta, I must have brain cancer that's causing this. But, we were doing data entry job, and I developed a blind spot in my vision, and I was like, what the hell? I'm trying to type something. I can't see the letters I'm supposed to type. And so I get a blind vision that starts in the center, and it then goes into like a tunnel vision. That all takes about 30 minutes to happen, and then nothing for about 30 minutes. And then I'll have a really bad headache for about 4 hours, and then it goes away typically. And that is a very nice version of a migraine headache. But I went to the doctor, and he's like, yes, those are migraines, but like Carrie, she has very debilitating migraines. I know other family members that we know that have, really debilitating.
My mom has had them. She's had to have the injections.
Yeah.
And lately she has to get a massage at least once a month, I think.
Yeah.
To try to help with it. She's also had to move to doing Botox injections in her scalp and neck.
Yeah.
To try to mitigate it.
Yeah, that's Tater was mentioning that he's read about people that's committed suicide to escape the pain, and I can totally get that. Legit migraines run in his family. His grandma used to get shots for it. His dad gets them, and he's bedridden for the whole day. I'm lucky not to have them. Yeah. I know a lot of people like get really photosensitivity is a thing that you'll see a lot because of that. But yeah,
I've only had a couple in my life, thank God, or whoever, and where it's the light sensitivity is so bad that if you get any bright light, or you just immediately feel like you're going to throw up, and it just hurts so bad. Or like being balled up in the floor, crying uncontrollably, you get like tears streaming down your face because it's just so much pain.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. It sucks.
Yeah. It's really rough right now with the social distancing. Carrie had really she's perpetually suffers from migraines, and she's found what really helped her is some massage therapy, and she gets a massage every other week. And I've seen when she skips it that she'll end up getting migraines, but when it's the very low incidence of them when she's regularly getting her treatment. And with the social distancing, she hasn't been able to get her thing, so she's been really suffering the last couple of weeks here, especially with the temperature changes and everything. So it's been really bad. Yeah, so that's the one thing. It's the one thing I'm looking forward to when they reopen the doors to society, is that she can get her therapy again.
Massages.
Yeah, her massages. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it's to think that you understand what somebody else's pain is. Again, hubris. I find that to be hubris, and take a moment to realize that somebody else's experiences could differ significantly from yours.
And that can be applied to all aspects of life, pretty much. Like, you're like, oh, I have it so bad. And stuff. Do you? Do you?
Perspective.
Like, are you being bombed on a regular basis? Oh my gosh, I have to stay in my house. Oh no. Really? Is it such a problem? Is the world ending because you have to stay in the home? You're going through so much. And I say that as a general statement. There are specific instances where your home may not be a safe space for you. Those are not the instances I am referring to right now. I'm talking about people who are not in any trouble being in their home, and they're just bored and being whiny.
Right.
Or in any other instance, it doesn't have to be the coronavirus social distancing situation. Just generally in life, just general whining about stuff.
Yeah,
first world problems.
I'm having a hard time with people considering this home quarantine a restriction on their freedoms. It's like, if you think that's a restriction on your freedoms, I don't think you understand exactly what restricted freedoms really are. And man, it just sounds like
Yeah, we're restricting your freedom from getting other people sick and killing them. Yeah, so sad.
yeah, I'm not sure. That's when people preventing people the freedom of speech is a restriction of freedom. Preventing people from the
Yeah.
freedom of religion is, denying certain groups of people the ability to vote or to own property. These are things that I deem as restrictions of freedoms. I don't, because you can't get a froyo, I don't count that as a restriction of freedom. Maybe that's my hubris and my ignorance. That's certainly possible. And maybe I need to become more woke to the issues of some of these people. But man, I tell you what.
Tater says, they took our jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And that, well, no, I'll refrain from that statement. Everything that you say, you don't have to speak out loud, right? Everything you think, you don't say. So there's a waiting room where thoughts go before they come out your mouth. And a lot of people don't give a crap about that room, is my opinion.
Nope.
Anything that gets in that room comes out. And it's like everything you think, you don't have
Some
to say.
people don't have a social filter. They don't have a waiting room.
But, all right.
There's no peer review going
No
on.
peer
inside that
review.
room.
Nice. Peer review. I like that.
No quality checking.
Yes. It's like, no. Yeah. All right. Here, I'm adding some washes. I know this hasn't been a very visually wowing stream today, but I've really, I guess, since I didn't get my earlier dose, I guess I was missing my Randy, and I just need to get my chat on with you. And I'm fine
Didn't
with
get your
that.
what?
I didn't get my my dose of Randy earlier in the week because I didn't do the I didn't do the Tuesday, our normal Tuesday, but yeah, I don't know. It's
All right, I think we had some good conversations today so far.
yeah, I do too, man. I really appreciate you. I appreciate this. Oh man, what are you're consuming right now, game wise or TV wise? I know you said you've been watching a lot of that Seeker YouTube. Are you playing any video games right now?
Yeah, I've just been on such a big YouTube kick. There's so much good content on there with like channels like Seeker or British comedian panel shows, quiz shows, and things like that. There's just been so enjoyable for me. Always good for a chuckle.
Yeah, I hear
new.
that Studio Johnny Q's got a pretty good YouTube channel as well. Probably worth checking out if
I've heard
anybody
that
hasn't.
too.
I don't know, but I hear tell. Yeah, it is neat when you when you go down YouTube rabbit holes. It's not just the next video, right? That you can click on. It's as it starts to understand your tendencies. And it's funny because my stuff all used to be D&D crafting stuff. It used to show me all the time, and right now it's a lot of guitar stuff because I've been looking into all the guitar pedals and things like that, and so now it's and so you can really go down some long-term rabbit holes, right? Because it's like, well, if you like this, you're probably going to like this. It's like, I do like this. Why are you showing me this? But then it's also bad because it's like, but I also still like Dungeons and Dragons crafting stuff, so please don't stop showing me that. And I find that that's what happens sometimes. It gets a little singular in its recommendations at times.
Yeah, then there needs to be, maybe there isn't, I just don't know about it, some way to put your own key interests in there to make sure that those are being represented.
Yeah, well, one of the things
all
is
the time.
I think it's a buried tab. Like when you look at your homepage, usually there's something on there that's going to grab your attention, and you don't end up look at it. But you can look and see like the people you subscribe to, what videos that they have recently released. But I never think to do that. But it's just like there's people I subscribe to, and I never see their videos, and so I think that there's a little bit of that. So mostly the YouTube's what you've been into?
Ducey said the problem is that he doesn't say everything he thinks. People don't believe that about him.
That is, I don't know. Were you on when he was telling me this is one of my most favorite things that
I believe it. I believe it about you.
I do, and I mean I can understand why people don't, because you have a lower filter than most, and it's one of the things I actually like about you. But I can see where that's not everybody's. Check your local listings.
To me, you still very clearly have a filter.
But yeah, which is, it's funny. I think that. But when we were talking about grown ass men and that phrase, grown ass men, and he had a situation, I believe it was at work, where somebody had used that phrase. I was like, please tell me this was the case study regarding this. He's like, yep. And it was like, somebody said something about, I'm a grown ass man, and he says, you know who doesn't say that they're a grown ass man? Grown ass men. And I wish that I had the wherewithal to say that to somebody's face. I don't think I do. I wish I had that.
Said, I have a filter like a Romulan web, sir. Not real in fiction.
What's that? I have a filter like a Romulan web, not real in fiction. That's awesome. Man, you're just you're coming up with some golden quotes today, my friend. That is awesome. That's like, you know, the thing is like, I like my women like I like my coffee hot and black, or something like that. And you know, you've heard that phrase, something like that, Randy.
Yeah.
And so I like doing that when, you know, it's like, I like my women like I like my coffee, 2 creams, 2 sugars. What? I don't know. It's because it's stupid, and I'm ridiculous. I'm trying to be ridiculous about your ridiculousness. The one comedian is like, I like my women like I like my coffee, full of booze. Let me see here.
He said, just like Gandalf said in the Star Trek The Next Generation.
Just like Gandalf said in The Next Generation. Yes. Thank you for bringing it up. Most people don't I don't think that's this lesser work that he gets quoted from. You shall not pass through this Romulan web. That was like something like that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
He likes his coffee on its knees, pleading with Lucifer. What brand have you been drinking?
I like my coffee on its knees, pleading with Lucifer. Okay, well, that one I'm adding myself because it needs to go in. Oh, delightful.
That's from Satan's Coffee Co., Barcelona. Satan's Coffee Corner. There's a coffee cup that is a cat with a pentagram on its forehead, and it says, "Praise Satan."
All hail the dark roast lord. I don't know. All right. One of my favorite underestimated comedians is he's so underestimated I forget his name. Emo Phillips. And I think it's a little flaky. And he had a line. He has some really good one-liners. And he said, I'll have to do it in my emo impression just because. But he says something along the lines of like, my ex-wife has lessons weekly with the devil on how to be more evil. I don't know how much she's charging him. Lovely.
It's been a long time since I've seen Emo Phillips. Wow.
I used to hear him on Bob and Tom, and that's where I heard him actually say that was on Bob and Tom. But he was one of those people where, you know, there was a lot of comedians I first got like kind of familiar with, and I didn't realize how brilliant they were because it was like a real big boom of good comedians, and then you start to see more of them, and you realize, oh, you were actually really, really good, and I just didn't realize it. I didn't recognize it at the time. All right. Well, let's keep washing it. Keep washing, scrubbing. That's right. You know, you can't spell Bible without saying devil. Something like that. There's no I in Bible. Wait a minute, no. That's one of the things I always just thought was funny about Satanism. It's like, you're not saying that there was another text where God was really bad and Satan was the good one. You're taking the book that where he's the bad guy, and you're just still saying, yeah, but it's like Satanism is this anti-Christianity. It's not really pro-Satan. It's just anti-Christianity. It's like, that seems a wrong way to go about accomplishing a goal, but who am I? Made for some good rock music. Made for good rock music.
Heard about Satanism. You know, you grew up. We grew up during the phase where it was all like, "Oh my God, there's Satanists in the woods sacrificing cats." Hearing those stories, oh my God, they sacrifice a cat on the railway tracks. It's Satanists. Like everybody was all afraid, and D&D was, you know, causing children to be Satanists and all that stuff.
Yes.
So it was the Satanist scare phase.
Truth.
Phase.
Yep.
But the only thing that I've actually heard about Satanists was saying that the philosophy promoted hedonism and do what thou wilt.
Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all that
I believe that's from the Satanic Bible, and that is around Anton LaVey, I think's version of Satanism, which is probably the most prevalent. And I think that what it is, and I actually agree with a lot of the ideals of Satanism, not surprising. But
I like more the Wiccan creed, which is, it has a caveat in there. It says, do what thou will, harm none. So it's, do what you want as long as you're not harming anybody.
Right, which is, you know, do unto others as you do yourself. But
yeah, go.
It's the thing is that, and I've seen this, is that the Christian religion, my experiences with it is it promotes the devaluing of self. You and of yourself are nothing. God is everything, and you should be serving God and worshiping God. Whereas Satanism talks about the value of self, and I think that this, you know, the importance of self, and I think that, you know, it was needed because of, you know, the misuse of Christianity, and those ways of always kind of demeaning yourself and saying that you are nothing, and that's my take on it, but I digress. All right, let's put some more washing on the back. What time are we at here? We're at 2, Randy. Are you you need to skedaddle and get back to the salt mines?
I got some more time now.
All right, well,
We're having some good conversation.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep.
You got me hooked.
Good. Good.
So there's a couple other things about Seeker that I wanted to mention too.
Yeah, please.
One of them was the slime molds.
Oh yeah, you started to mention that. Yeah,
which was crazy.
You were mentioning that via text, and I was like, I need to hear this coming out of your mouth because I can't exactly comprehend it. But you were saying, let me see
about bacteria.
What you were saying was that this thing was saying that slime mold was being used to help predict the location of dark matter, and that without a brain, that it seemed as if slime molds possessed some sort of consciousness or demonstrated what would seem to be some version of consciousness. Is that accurate so far?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So one of the things I like about Seeker is that they, more and more I watch it, and they're easily acknowledge the fact that, hey, we don't know.
Right.
Like, not just us personally, but, you know, there's a lot that doctors don't know yet. There's a lot that scientists don't know. We are seeing that this is occurring, but we don't know why. We haven't been able to figure that out yet. It's still what we're working on, which that's the way things should be. It shouldn't be, hey, this is what this thing is. This is what we currently believe this to be based upon.
Well, my understanding is you can't prove anything.
This criteria.
You can only disprove it, right? So you
go.
can't say you know truth. You can only say what is not true, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And that's not the way you see
and
most
acknowledge
people.
That,
Good.
we're doing the best we can. We're constantly reevaluating these things and testing them out to make sure that they're still accurate. We're trying. That was a big thing about saying what science is, was saying that we're constantly trying to disprove ourselves in order to test the theories.
Right.
But anyway, so there was slime mold studies done, and slime mold studies on their own are fascinating, with all the stuff they learned about slime molds and connotations thereof and how it interacts and everything.
Can I stop you for a second and ask the computer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Computer, what's a slime mold?
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Computer, what is a slime mold?
Oops.
Slime mold or slime mold is an informal name given to several kinds of unrelated eukaryotic organisms that can live freely as single cells, but can aggregate together to form multicellular reproductive structures. Slime molds were formerly classified as fungi, but are no longer considered part of that kingdom.
Because they're actually, kind of lame. They're not fun at all.
I think they're very fun.
They're
so fascinating.
They have to ride in a humdrum V. Sorry, go ahead.
So they were talking about how they used them in different studies and stuff, in different experiments, where they took a map in one of these things. They took a map of like the United States, and they placed some food for the slime mold, whatever it chooses to eat. They placed the food on cities that were major population points. Okay. And then watched how the slime mold behaved. And it ended up, the network that it sent out, and it would like go out in all directions and then find the best route to its food, basically, and then interlink those network. They would make a network of those interlinking the foods together, the food sources, through the best routes. And it like mimicked our own highway system, basically. So there was interesting correlations that they could derive from that and apply to different things. So that was one instance of them doing that. Another thing was using that same sort of thing. They applied it to dark matter strands and the web of dark matter. So they think that what accounts for some things in the universe that they haven't been able to account for otherwise, such as gravitational forces, why our solar system doesn't just fly apart, or galaxies don't just fly apart. What's holding them together, what's holding them in place, more so, I believe, and the answer that they've come is what they come to explain that is what they were calling dark matter and the dark matter web, and that these dark matter nodes are connected by strands.
The dark matter web, by the way, that's where you can hire somebody to kill anybody.
The dark web.
They only deal with dark matter on that.
Do your own fact find. So apparently the dark matter itself, I don't think is viewable, but specifically the strands are not observable, except that they attract or absorb. I think it was saying they attract. They have enough gravitational force or mass or whatever to attract certain particles, and these particles absorb and re-emit certain light, I believe, and that's how they're able to find them. However, the universe is a very large place, so they don't know where to look. So they've drawn correlations using the slime mold as a model. They've taken that, and since it was difficult to apply that to a 3D situation, which you need to in order to factor in space, it's not just on a petri dish, it's full-scale 3D. They broke it down to computer algorithm. They studied its behavior and broke that down into computer algorithm, and then applied that computer algorithm to those aspects of the cosmos, basically. And I can't remember exactly how I think they may have just used the different solar systems as the points for interaction, but then they used so that like the highways basically that the slime mold developed in this algorithm, they used that as an indicator of where to look for dark matter strands, and they actually found that it worked. They were actually able to find some dark matter strands using this algorithm. So that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's.
They also think that
you're blowing my mind with that stuff.
that the slime mold seems to have some cognitive. Trying to think of the right words here.
Behaviors.
Properties, we'll say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
They seem to exhibit some behaviors that seem to indicate some cognitive function, but they don't have a brain. That, at least not as far as we can tell.
Well, I mean, we see that out of humans every day, so I'm not impressed by that.
They seem to farm their food, so they'll actually gather this different bacteria that they like to feed on. They'll gather it together and apparently farm it. They'll like feed it and keep it healthy and reproductive so that they can feed on it.
Savage.
And some other aspects that make it seem like they're doing something cognitively, and consciously in a way. And they don't know how this is happening.
That's fascinating.
And basically, the slime mold itself, I think they said it is
God.
It does not. They can come together. They mentioned something about it being able to self-heal, which I'm not entirely certain what that was alluding to.
Here comes old Slimer. He comes moving up slowly. He's predicting the dark strands, and don't go to that part of the web. Oh, sorry, I lost it there. Go ahead. Beatles song, "Come Together." You know me. You know me. I'm always easily distracted.
But it was talking about something like they don't divide in cells, but their nuclei divide, or something along those lines. So basically, they end up creating one giant cell.
They're uniters, not dividers.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's a very interesting subject.
Yes, I agree.
To look more into because it sounds very fascinating. And there's other stuff that they're looking into using that as like using that algorithm and further study of the mold itself and its behaviors as a way to help with other issues, help examine other issues. So I suggest looking into it. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I could definitely agree.
The other one was talking about bacteria and your own, how they're looking to use your own bacteria, whether it be gut bacteria or just bacteria free floating within your body, to fight cancers and tumors.
It's not a tumor.
And there's positives and negatives to it. There's some very promising research being done, but there's also some drawbacks to it because, like with antibiotics, because it's just like, would you be able to take antibiotics while you're having this therapy because it could kill that, or some things are resistant to it because they protect themselves, or the tumor might be creating a biofilm, or the bacteria might be creating a biofilm that's protecting that based on how it's acting. It may be accidentally protecting the cancer cells. So there's lots of different uses that they were coming across for it, and a lot of it looks very promising.
That's interesting.
What else did they know? Oh, they determined that individuals' reactions to cancers, how their body reacts to cancers and tumors and therapies, can be dependent upon their individual bacterial biome. So these bacteria within their own bodies can directly affect their likelihood or how it behaves of getting cancer or its function in the body, as well as treatments thereof. It can interfere or possibly assist.
Huh. That's fascinating.
So I thought that was pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah. That is. We're talking about hubris and it exists all around, right? All sides, all humans have this tendency to hubris, and it's funny. It's like I used to consider myself, I think, atheist, which means that you believe there is no God, to where I think I trend more agnostic now, and it's like, because the more you understand about science, it's wacky. What they're saying that the math is saying, it's just like the whole thing with like dark energy and dark matter. It's like that what they're saying, at least from what my comprehension of it, is that the majority of the universe is made up of stuff you can't see, called dark matter and dark energy. That the visible universe represents about, I don't know, 2 to 5%, I think, of the mass and of all the stuff, of all the uni stuff. Most of it you can't see, and that's dark matter and dark energy. And then when they start crunching in the numbers, it's like more and more. It's like the multiverses have to exist. Okay, and what does that mean? And we were talking about mind walk, and when you start talking about how things act on quantum levels, they're not there. They're not there. They have a tendency to be there. Okay, well, what the hell does that even mean? And but we're easily dismissive of like Johnson was mentioned. Darkness is fallen. That crystals are a bunch of bullcrap. It was like, I don't have a problem believing that crystals could have healing powers. I just need to see them be able to be demonstrated, time and again through scientific reasoning.
Yeah.
But just that in the fact of that,
to be observable and
yeah, I don't believe
measurable.
that. Yeah, it's like I don't have a problem believing in ghosts. I don't have a problem believing in aliens. Why don't we see them? Why can't the power of prayer? I believe in the power of prayer, but it should be able to be demonstrable in some way. For me to believe in something, for me to think that something exists, it has to be able to be demonstrable in some way. That's what I require. But what science leaves a lot of room for God, a God. I don't think it leaves room for what I would regard as a Judeo-Christian God, or any of the gods that books are generally written about. But it's like, what happened? What existed beyond the Big Bang? We don't have really any good answers about that. So what was the state of things before this? I don't have any problem believing in the Big Bang, and this is the way that our universe was created and things like that. But what existed beyond that, or did anything exist beyond that? And it's just, there's a lot of room in science for God and for esoteric thinking, and it's like, it's all open, telekinesis. Okay, I don't have a problem believing that telekinesis is possible, but it can't be that everybody that has telekinesis is never going to be on film, and it doesn't work if you're trying to do a scientific study, and that's where I have a problem with it. So, but
yeah. I was watching something about that fairly recently too, about and I can't remember who it was, but you would know, and very famous guy who was kind of debunking. I think he was a trained magician himself, but he would go around and debunk magicians that were trying to scam people and stuff.
Actually,
and then he had
Houdini was famous for that.
Yeah, he was actually. That's an interesting story in itself. But this guy's more recent, who had been really active during the 80s, I think.
You know what John says? It's the 80s, and I love the ladies.
But he debunked a lot of psychic and medium scams and stuff by testing them. And so many of them just said, oh, well, it's just not, the tests are interfering. It's not working right now, or whatever. And, a lot of that stuff, I wonder if the person was deliberately being a scammer, or whether they truly believe themselves in what they were saying, or some other variation thereof. It'd be interesting to see like which ones were definitely just scamming and which ones actually believed what they were saying to be true.
Yeah.
But
I think the majority are scammers. That's, I think, my tendency. I think that people who are paid to do that type of stuff, I think more often than not are scammers, but I don't believe that all of them are. And that's one of the things as I've been, you look into this, the Scientology stuff, and it's like, some of the people, they really believe this stuff, they really legitimately believe this stuff. But
I went through a phase where I was doing some psychic development stuff. That was interesting, where you were in a group and you had to like.
Did we lose you, Randy? Let me see. I may have lost. Maybe make sure, Randy, if you can hear me, give me a second. I'm going to check and make sure my headphones didn't cut out, because that is certainly possible. Randy, if you can talk, I'm not seeing your mic light at all in Discord. Right on. Thank you, Johnson. Appreciate that. I'm gonna send Randy a message here and. Yeah, I'm not seeing, normally in Discord, like when I talk, there's a green circle that blinks around me. I'm not seeing that for Shads. And he's actually, looks like he might be grayed. Well, he probably is grayed out unless when he talks. So let's give him a minute to see if he hops on. If nothing else, I'll take this moment just to thank everybody who's been on the stream today. We've had a lot of people that's hopped in. Some of these names I recognize, some of them I don't. Another viewer, Atten, Dr.
Hello?
Upperchi? Hey, I can hear you now, brother.
Yeah. Had to close out of Discord and come back in.
You know what was really funny was that happened the same moment that I turned off the M50 to reboot it. So I literally just switched it and it stopped giving your audio, and I was like, what the hell just happened there? How did I do that?
That's weird.
Mind over matter. So I don't know what were you saying?
What was the last thing you heard?
What were we talking about? Sorry, I got sidetracked. So
I don't know what the last thing you heard was. So
we were talking about what? You give
me.
I
started talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
Go, you please. I'm lost. Too many things.
I started talking about psychometry.
Oh yeah, that's the last thing I remember you saying was that you were doing some work about some psychic stuff, and that's about where it cut out. That's when I because I remember I was looking over to reset the M50 at that point.
Yeah.
True Blue is about a sensitive girl meets a
and
nice
also
guy.
Part of it got into like crystals. It was that whole like metaphysics, new age stuff. It was exploring all those elements and seeing if there was any truth to any of that and whatever, and just exploring those ideas further. But part of it was the psychic development and psychometry and psychic readings and stuff. And just seeing what you got, if there's anything that you could come up with, and trying to determine if there was any truth to it, how it worked, whatever. So the thing was that, like, I wasn't trying to scam anybody. That's the opposite of what I wanted.
Right.
I definitely, that's the total opposite of what I was going through. Like, I wanted this to be true, but I didn't know if it was. And there were some things that I was getting, and again, it wasn't like somebody was saying these things to me in my head. So like some people say, you have a spirit guide or a medium, or you're a medium and you're talking to the spirits and they're telling you these things, but it wasn't like anybody was telling me something in my head. It was that I just felt like a connection toward this thing when I was dealing with this particular person. So I'd be like, so I'm seeing a garage, and for some reason, and they're like, yeah, we just painted my garage. I'm like, okay, that's bizarre, and just things like that. Or like I'm smelling, I have an idea that I'm smelling pipe smoke. Like I have this memory. This memory just popped into my head from when I smelled pipe smoke as a kid. And it was around my grandfather, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my grandfather just passed, and he always smoked a pipe." And there's weird things like that you didn't expect to happen, and they did, but it was like, and the whole time I'm like, "Am I just making this shit up?" But it doesn't make any sense because they're drawing. It was very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up getting away from it because, well, okay, because some of the people thought I was very good at it, and so they started like setting me up for doing psychic readings for people that I like without my permission in a way. But anyway, and I didn't feel comfortable in it. Like I didn't feel confident.
I would think that if you were very good psychic, you would know that was going to happen.
Yeah, right. But no, it's not like that. It's one of those things like you could never tell anything about yourself. Like there's nothing you could just, and like it was difficult to do anything that was close to you. You have to, at least when I was doing it, you had better stuff when you were removed from the person. And in a way that makes sense because you have a lot less that you're not worried so much about, you don't know about them. You don't have any preconceptions and stuff if you don't know the person you're talking to. So there's nothing that's going to keep you from saying something or lead you in a different direction than what your first initial impression was or whatever. But anyway, yeah, so it was just an awkward time where it was like, I seem to be getting all these things right and I don't know why or how, and it's confusing and it feels weird and I don't know.
We were young and our heart was like an open book.
I wanted it to be like, oh yeah, these things are clearly, I know the answers. Like this thing is clearly coming in and I know that this is correct and like I can do something useful with this. But that wasn't the case. It was always like self-doubt. Like, is this real? Like, is this happening? I don't understand where this is coming from. Am I just making this up? But people were getting a benefit from it. It was really confusing.
Yeah. Because didn't you tell me that I might be confusing you with somebody else, but I don't think so. Weren't you telling me like with tarot cards that you dabbled a little bit with that and that the things that you would do when you would do tarot readings, that it was like people were like, that's really like on the nose sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm like kind of like this is confusing me. There was an instance
where there was a girl at work.
It's always starts with a story about a girl at work. More bad things have happened because of a girl at work.
Yeah.
S.S.
There was a
Johnson.
girl at work that there was a girl at work who came in tearfully one day and said that she had had a miscarriage. And she was explaining it a bit more, that she had gone to doctor's hospital and she hadn't.
Girl on a motorbike.
Trying
the two great
talk
evils.
About this in a delicate fashion. Let's just say she hadn't lost the baby, but it was no longer alive, is what she was told. Okay.
I'm sorry, I need a moment because I don't want to laugh about miscarriage, and I'm laughing because of Johnson. So I need a second to get that out of my system. So you're saying, go ahead.
What?
No, Johnson was saying some things and it was causing me to laugh, and you're telling me a story about miscarriage, and I don't want to seem insensitive towards this miscarriage.
Oh, gotcha.
So please, if you could.
So girl at work.
Yeah, girl at work.
Yeah, she came in. She was really teary and obviously disturbed and everything. And it came to she had just come from the hospital, and they told her that she was pregnant. She didn't even know she was pregnant at the time, but that she was pregnant, and that the baby was not alive. But I didn't. Something about it just struck me really strongly. I just got a really strong feeling, and I'm like, okay, you need to like immediately go and get a second opinion on this. Something just doesn't feel right. And it turned out that the baby was still alive. It just had like something was wrong where it had its vitals were low, and they didn't pick it up for whatever reason at that time. And she ended up having a healthy child after she got checked out and got the help she needed with the situation. So it's those kind of situations, and it's like, oh, what the hell? Like, I don't know how or why that happened. Like, yeah, it is just really weird.
And I don't have a problem believing in the possibility of like premonitions and things like that, and that our brain is like I get, I always talk about my spidey sense regarding people, and I know that it's not always accurate, but I feel like I have a really good feel about people just straight off. And I don't think it's anything magic, but I think that I'm good at picking up body language and the words that people use and the words that they don't use. And
Yeah.
a lot of it's just, emotions and expressions and eye contact and lack thereof and things like that. And it allows me to, without consciously processing that information, that I'm able to deduce things based on evidence that I'm seeing. I'm just not consciously engaging with it. And so, I can totally believe that, that possibility exists on even a much larger scale, potentially. But that's fascinating.
There was another instance where a woman had gotten into a car accident because a drunk driver, who's a total asshole, in a big truck, that was drinking while he was driving, ran a red light, knocked her off the road, flipped her car into the ditch, stopped, came back,
ran over again,
called her a bitch and threw his beer bottle at her and drove off. The cops ended up finding him because his fingerprints were on the beer bottle that he threw at her car after calling her a bitch, after wrecking her car in the ditch. But her car was totaled. I don't know how she survived at all. But she was told that they would have to amputate her arm. And she was really broken up about it. And it didn't set right. I'm like, you really need to go and get a second opinion on this. And, if the next person doesn't say the right thing, then try looking at other avenues. Go look into acupuncture. If this is really bothering you, you really don't want to lose your arm, you need to, make sure that you're going through and looking at all these different possibilities, no matter how slim they may be.
Who needs an arm when an arm can be broken? Go ahead. Sorry.
She ended up having, I believe it was that she ended up having acupuncture done, and it ended up helping. And she slowly regained the use of her arm, but her hand still wasn't working. And then she slowly regained the use of her hand, and her fingers weren't working. And then she ended up just having I think 2 fingers that were still giving her trouble, but she didn't have to have any amputation done. And during the course of that, she actually went to a nerve specialist, and he told her that the pain medication, this is a bit off topic, but now, but
this is like we have topic, we're on topic. Sorry,
it was correlated in that I had the feeling that she needed to I kept pushing her this doesn't feel right, you need to get another opinion.
You had the feeling.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything.
I'm making a joke. I'm just trying to add a little. I'm adding a little gallows humor to it. So
I think
you can disregard everything I say.
There's something going on unconsciously that we're not aware of. That we're aware of things, whether it be on some level that our brain is picking up cues that we're not aware of, and deriving something from that.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I don't know.
But again, I think that there's that if these things do exist, that they could be demonstrable, even if it's on a faint level, right? It doesn't have to be a 1-to-1, you can do this, but based on a blind study that you compare to a blind study, that there's some correlation here that, gives us. But I mean,
yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yeah. That which is based on the government's actually having done something similar. With,
have you seen a similar but completely different movie, Men Who Expose Themselves to Goats?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Volume 3 is the really good one.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll check that out. Hold on, let me Google that. Oh, God!
But, it appears that, that the government has actually invested time and energy on some of these things, like remote viewing and things like that,
Yeah.
And it's like, why, and if it's so preposterous, but
yeah.
But yeah.
And there's so much now that we still, and that's the when you get a good scientist or a good doctor who actually knows what they're talking about, will tell you, we don't know how a lot of this works. We're still trying to figure that out. So there's a lot of stuff that we still do not know. So, use common sense, but don't close your mind off totally to everything.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that these things, some of these things do actually exist in some form, and whatever their cause is that somebody will take it and then they'll apply something to it that they want it to be, or
Right.
that somebody has told them to believe that it is, and then get fanatical about that, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And instead it should be, taken back to its root and say that, okay, well, these things do seem that there seems to be something potentially happening in some cases, and that, what could be causing that. And in my case, I think that it's probably has to do with some of those, unconscious cues that your brain is picking up on something that that it's not consciously that you're not consciously aware of.
Yeah.
Whatever, micro expressions or scents, meaning smells in this case, or whatever that we're just not wired to have as part of our conscious experience. There's a ton of stuff that your brain and your body experience behind the scenes that your conscious mind is never aware of. Generally, breathing, you don't need to think about breathing to be able to.
I forgot to breathe. Hold on.
Your body does.
Yeah.
Although I do find myself like, dude, stop. Why are you holding your breath? Breathe a lot. But
language.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
learning of language.
You're not thinking about.
You didn't learn to speak by consciously processing it, right? I think the older that I get, and I think science probably confirms this, that most of what we do is not conscious. But I think that's the flaw, that we think that our consciousness is everything, and that all of our thought is conscious thought, and all these things that we do are conscious, and it's like the majority of what you do you're totally unaware of, why you do it, how you do it.
Here's like muscle memory.
Yeah, learning to ride a bike.
You do things repetitively so that your muscles retain that information, and then you can do it without even thinking about it.
Like balance, right? When you learn to balance, you didn't even have the words to be able to process. Oh, I'm leaning a little too far this way. Oh no, I'm leaning a little too far this way. It's just like you absorbed it. The same thing with learning to speak. You learned so much about speech by just hearing it, and your brain picks it up and figures these things out, rather than you consciously making decisions about these things. So little what you do, you don't make conscious decisions about. That your tongue is too big for your mouth. I love our community.
You mentioned tarot cards at one point, and a lot of that stuff, I don't think that tarot cards are magical. They are symbolic, and there's a lot to be said for symbolism. Dream analysis is a whole other thing, and there's dream dictionaries that have if you see this thing in your dream, it means this. I'm like, if there's any truth to that, don't go by that. It would be a very
subjective,
personal thing.
Although
you
I
have
do
your own symbolism.
I do agree with that, but then I also think that there are some things that are probably common, like thinking that flying represents freedom in some way. We have common dreams where we're naked, naked and afraid.
Yeah.
And, there's some things where
there are some
commonalities
that can be. Generalities that can be derived from a group experience, but
you look at a dream dictionary, it's like if you dreamt about a black leaf, then it means that death is coming to your family or something, and it's just like, yeah. That's what I call hokum, and that's a shyster came up with that.
Yeah. If there is any truth there, and I think on some. I've had some dreams that, unfortunately, generally now I don't remember my dreams. I used to, as a kid, I was really good about remembering them, and I have very vivid dreams often. And there were definitely some times where it seemed like there were dreams that were definitely trying to tell me something. And you could get a lot of benefit from that by examining that.
I think so. Yeah.
And using that as a tool for self-examination. And that's a thing that I think about tarot cards too. They have symbolism built into them. But even if you ignore what like is written in the book about, oh, this tarot card means this, or this tarot card contains this symbolism, which is this. If you just go by your feelings on that and how it makes you feel, I think that is an unconscious tool, or a tool for examining your unconscious, that can help you process things. It depends how you use it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tool that you can use to help you process some possibly subliminal or unconscious aspects of yourself. And even just as a thought exercise. If you say, like, you ask a question to a tarot card reading, you get your layout and you flip over the cards and this is what you think these things are supposed to be saying. Don't take it for like, oh yeah, this is definitely what this thing is saying. Just examine it. How does this make me feel and why? And it's just a prompt, a tool for self-discovery in that through self-analysis.
Yeah,
so that's it.
I'm thinking about, you're making me think about Rorschach test, right? Ink block tests.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that that's the way I would think about an ink block test, right? It's like, what do you see? Well, and The Watchmen, when they ask Rorschach about, when he's incarcerated and they're giving him Rorschach tests, he's seeing these two people are having love and it's angry because his mom was a prostitute and he walked in on her one time, blah, 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 blah. And he just tells the guy, he's like, oh, I see a bunch of pretty flowers. One of them, he's seeing a dog's head split open and he's just like, oh, this is a nice butterfly. And, but the thing is my understanding is that Rorschach tests actually have answers, right and wrong answers. Or they used to be regarded as actually having a known set of answers. And it's just like, that is just so foreign to my understanding. I can't believe that. And I appreciate, I can hear you're doing some fact finding right now on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my understanding was that a pretty butterfly.
There's a funnierdie.com. The correct answers to the most common Rorschach tests.
Yeah, and then there were some problems. There were some problems with the internet too about some of these tests where the answers were supposed to be secret, and then once it could become more publicly consumed, that the validity of those tests became in question. Yeah.
What in the? Well, here's a possible indicator about this. Okay, that's an ad. And then, they don't realize the, okay, all right, they've structured this oddly. All right.
That's what she said.
Nope, that's not going to do it. Ask Carrie. Carrie!
Yeah, I will try to confirm with Carrie, but we will, I thought
I always took it just to be, it's how you answer the question. It's not that it has a correct answer.
That's what I thought too, and that's why
your answer says about you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it was like, no, if you say this, it means you're crazy. And I was like, what? Computer, are there a set of right and wrong answers for the Rorschach test?
Here's something I found on the web.
This will be exciting.
According to AsianCare.com, I suppose Hess right.
Thank you. Always helpful. Always. Thank you.
See, this is what Wikipedia says about Rorschach test.
Wiki whack. Wikity.
Bands. Okay,
Rorschach
the Rorschach test is a psychological test in which the subject's perceptions of ink blots are recorded and then analyzed using psychological interpretation, complex algorithms, or both. Some psychologists use this test to examine a person's personality characteristics and emotional functioning. It has been employed to detect underlying thought disorder, especially in cases where patients are reluctant to describe their thinking processes openly.
Well, maybe I got some bad information. I'm pretty certain I'd heard somebody say this, but back in the day, we weren't always able to get good fact finding, right? So maybe what I heard was an urban myth or something.
I think that's what. Yeah, I remember thinking that as a kid, or hearing something to that effect as a kid. Like you were thought there was something going around, like the correct answers to the Rorschach test. That's ringing a bell. There is that element too, John, and there are plenty of quacks out there ready to take your money that don't have the credentials or the actual give a shit to back it up, unfortunately. I was going to mention something about chiropractic earlier when we were talking about headaches and stuff. What Lloyd and Andrea had an issue with, do you remember what it was called, John? It was like she was having vertigo really bad, but it had to do with something with her inner ear, and that was a disorder. They were saying she had this disorder or disease that had to do with the inner ear. And it was causing her to have really bad motion sickness and vertigo often. That was really affecting her life negatively. And then she ended up totally disconnectedly having, I believe, having a chiropractic adjustment at some point. And they found that there was some pressing, some pinching of some nerves and stuff in her neck, I believe. And she didn't have a problem with it after that. After she had that chiropractic adjustment, she no longer had the issue. So it was totally misdiagnosed and was caused by something that a chiropractor was able to alleviate. Now, having said that, I've heard other things where chiropractors have been of great benefit to people. My dad had an issue where his back was thrown out so bad that he couldn't move on a regular basis, and found a chiropractor who had been a spinal surgeon and went into chiropractic because he was seeing spinal surgeries done that he determined could be fixed by chiropractic. And it helped him a lot, immensely. Yeah. However, I've been to a chiropractor who was clearly just trying to get my money, saying a whole bunch of bullcrap and
backbreaker, money taker.
Like, oh, this is going to take 149 treatments to clear this up, and it wasn't even a thing. So there are definitely charlatans out there, but it also does, if you can find the right person, have potentially great benefit.
Yeah, Meniere's disease was the thing you were looking for.
Disease, that sounds right.
Yeah, and then also the Rorschach test made me. I put a quote from Hamlet that made me think about that. He says, "Do you see yonder cloud that's almost in the shape of a camel?" Polonius says, "By the mass, and 'tis like a camel indeed." And Hamlet says, "Methinks it's like a weasel. It is backed like a weasel, or like a whale, very like a whale." And I don't know why that applies, but it made me think about it.
It's an interesting correlation to a Rorschach test is cloud gazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Back cracking, money stacking. Yep. Well, Randy, I need to probably get me something to eat here, actually. Let's see what time we got here. I haven't eaten lunch, so it's almost 3.
2:48.
Yeah, man. I could keep talking forever with you, though, but I should get some food in my belly.
I've been working on my sourdough starters and stuff. I think I may be ready to bake a sourdough bread today.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Some bread-based goods already using the starter discard. That turned out pretty good.
Have you ever had any of Carrie's cheesecake?
Yeah.
She's been
cheesecake?
Yeah, she's been making Instapot cheesecake, and man, it's good. Oh, good. But man, yeah, you're
it's a nice consistency in it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Thanks for being on, Johnson. I'm glad that we got to hang out with you today. Tater, man, always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you guys' support immensely. Shadow, always, man, appreciate you hopping on, even when it's just lurking. But I extra love it when I get to actually talk to you in real time. and I think maybe we'll do it too, where we can get some of the other fellows maybe to hop on and do Discord, because I know now how to do that. So
Cool.
We'll have to do that some other time. I don't want to do it on the Tuesdays and Thursdays because that's just for you. I want to be able to give you the opportunity to tell me all the neat things that you've been coming across during the week, and help activate my imagination. So I appreciate that. But anything else before? Since I kind of
have you looked any further about finding any games that we can all play together that are cross-platform or anything like that?
I haven't. One of the things is that we still need to do the VR Star Trek. You and I.
Oh yeah.
I keep thinking about that. I was like, oh man, I haven't played my VR in a while. But yeah.
Quake. Wow, it's been a while.
Quake 2. Bring it back to old school.
I forgot about Quake.
Any potato can run it. Potato.
Is there cooperative in Quake?
You know what I would love to play is old school. That's the funnest game I've ever played. Even when you're losing, it was a blast. Was Monster Truck Madness's King of the Hill.
Oh yeah.
And Divinity is 4-player. I don't know if it's cross-platform, is it?
Some of these things from Neebs Gaming that they were playing on there, I told you about, where there was one where like the different players try to climb each other, and you have to get to the top of the tower, like get to the top of climbing the previous person within a certain time limit. And so you all just have to try to climb up each other, and it has that kind of awkward control, the same as like Humans Fall Flat does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bit of a trick to getting there and doing it right, and not falling off and having to start back over and stuff. They had a lot of fun playing it, but I don't know what platforms it's available on, unfortunately. But games like that, I think, like Humans Fall Flat, things that are just silly and cooperative, I think there's a lot of potential for fun there.
Yeah, and even like when we used to do the Monster Truck Madness, we would do it as teams. We'd do it solo, but we'd also do it as teams, and it was a lot of fun. And like I said, it's a game where, like, if it was your first time playing, you had as much fun as like if it was your 50th time playing. And something like that, where it's not who knows the room or the rules or the techniques better. Then I think those would be good examples. And then also along those lines, separate but completely different, same exact thing, just completely different, is movie. I want us to do another remote movie session. I had a lot of fun when we did our Tenacious D viewing, and I think learning a little bit more about Discord and some of these things, I think we could even do it a little bit better next time. So I want to look into doing that. Yeah, I'll have to see.
It's hard for me because, like, when I watch a movie, I want to watch a movie. So it's hard to, like, chat and listen to chat while I'm watching a movie. Yeah. Unless I've already seen it and can comment on it.
And that's and that's why, like, I thought something like Tenacious D would good, or something that we've seen, something that, humorous movies in particular, or even if it's a bad movie, that's something that we can just, goof on. I'm not wanting to watch, Mind Walk.
Like,
I'm not.
What is it? Mystery Science Theater 2000 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Even if it was just something cheesy like that. Or we were going to do Galaxy Quest, and I couldn't figure out how to get that to stream, but I think I have a better idea on how to do that now. So something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I'm going to try to look to see if we can get something like that going. So,
cool.
But on that note, any other parting words? If not, I will.
I think that's it.
All right.
Take care of yourselves, everybody.
Yeah, everybody be good. And remember Doctor's promise, never cowardly, never cruel, never give up, never give in. And like Galaxy Quest, never surrender. Never give up, never surrender.
Oh, yeah.
Bye. Everybody be good, and we will chat with you later. Let me get our outro music here ready.